This is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, good morning. Over 1,000 prisoners will be freed today.
Well, the early release scheme rolls on as the Justice Secretary says criminals could serve their sentences from home.
An independent review into the prison system is launched, with the government pledging to end the chaos and overcrowding in jails.
King Charles and Queen Camilla wrap up their Australian tour with a visit to Sydney Opera House. Stay tuned for live coverage from Down Under.
Good morning. I'm live from outside one of the world's most iconic landmarks, where thousands of people have been queuing for hours to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen, who will be arriving here very shortly.
As Cameron said, live in the programme, Labour's Employment Rights Bill voted through with flying colours, but some still have doubts. Later this morning, we'll be talking to the Shadow Business Secretary.
The police officer who shot and killed Chris Kaba while on duty is found not guilty of murder, with some MPs now asking why he was ever even charged.
And we debate whether a fast food job makes you working class. Everyone from Kemi Badenoch to Kamala Harris boasting of their McDonald's pasts.
And with a third of grandparents believing gaming is a great way to bond with the grandkids, we meet the granny who's obsessed with Fortnite.
And in the sport this morning, Nottingham Forest got their first league win at home since April as they beat Crystal Palace, who still haven't won us all this season. Arsenal and Aston Villa both at home in the Champions League tonight. And talking about gaming, Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy on the future of golf, and it's indoors.
Following a stormy weekend, a settled spell coming up for most of us, although still the odd shower around during the next couple of days. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
Welcome aboard. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
prisoner release. It's gaining in momentum, and 1,000 will be released today in the second stage of the release scheme.
Yes, Labour hopes this will help manage overcrowding and follows the first release of almost 2,000 prisoners in September.
Now, this comes as the sentencing review is launched today, which aims to prioritise public safety and ensure the country always has the space needed to keep dangerous prisoners locked up.
Well, chaired by former Lord Chancellor David Gorky, the review hopes that no government ever finds itself in this position again.
We're joined now by social campaigner and entrepreneur Winston Davis and political commentator Theo Usherwood on all of this. Winston, first of all, I'm assuming, my friend, you're an advocate of this.
It's not about being an advocate. It's that the government have got not many choices, not had many choices. And actually, this has been going on for over a year. Rishi Sunak, he released 10,000 prisoners early. That got headlined in July. You know, they started doing this scheme last October because the prisons were overcrowded. Yet the Tory government, they knew about the prison crisis back in February 2020 when Rishi Sunak was the Chancellor. They said, if you don't do something, 2022, 2023, there's going to be a problem. And we're at 2024 will be a huge problem. So this is just putting a plaster, something they need to do today, now, but it's not addressing the underlying issues of why we've got such overcrowding in our prisons.
Yeah, but it will be painted as, look at this, goodness me, we should have thought about this a long time ago. Everybody wins here. The people will still be punished, sort of. They could be being punished from home. It's just a different way, a softer way of doing things, but it still has the edge of punishment to it. Now, you've served your time in prison, you know, and you've reformed and you've reinvented yourself and done incredibly well. What do you think about punishment being meted out?
I think that punishment definitely is there. Prison needs to be there. It needs to be punishment. It needs to be there for the protection of the public. It needs to prevent crime, but also keyly part of rehabilitation. Prison needs to be about rehabilitation. If you don't rehabilitate people, they just revolve and door in and out, and that's what we have at the moment. Without putting rehabilitation at the forefront, the prison's pointless. You can lock people up for 50 years, doesn't matter. They're still going to come out and do the same things and or worse. So until we as a society start saying, right, we need a rehabilitative view of prison rather than a punitive view of prison, which we have at the moment, we're stuffed.
Winston, as we've been saying, this has been going on for years, hasn't it? Did you get any sense when you were inside, give us a snapshot, if you will, of a sense of overcrowding, of staff being under strain?
Well, I mean, in context, look, I was in prison 16 years ago, got caught with 30 kilos of skunk, got 3 years in jail. Yes, there was overcrowding, there was violence, there was little rehabilitation, although I took it by the horns and said, right, I want to do it, and I took the initiative myself to push it. I was told when I said I wanted to do a heating course in prison, they said, no, you're overqualified, you can't do this course. I was like, no, I want to do it. This is what I want to do for my future. And unless you've got that personal desire to go and get it, which a lot of prisoners, when they go to prison, 57% of prisoners have got a reading age of an 11-year-old. They don't have the tools to be able to look at information and go, right, this is what I want for my future, let alone knowing how do I navigate the dangers of being in prison as it is.
Theo, politically, what are they trying to achieve with all of this? They're trying to make this look like, look, this was part of the big plan anyway, this is better for everyone.
So just to pick up on what Winston was saying, I think also when you look at reform of the prison system, when you're locking people up for 23 hours a day, and this is when I was speaking to former prisons inspectors, those who work at the very highest level, they make the argument you can't reform somebody if they're in their prison cell for 23 hours a day. So what they're trying to do is to break that cycle. And yes, politically, you could say there's absolutely an argument to ensure that we don't have prison overcrowding. And this is what David Gauke's going to be looking at as a former Conservative Lord Chancellor, is actually ensuring that the most dangerous prisoners are kept behind bars. But make no mistake, there is going to be consternation, I think, from those who are saying, hang on a moment, if you've committed a low-level offence, the government's no longer planning to send you to prison, you're going to be able to serve your sentence from home with the use of greater technology around tagging, for instance. They're also going to be looking at what's been done in Texas and Louisiana, where you can get points off for good behaviour. And Keir Starmer, as a former Director of Public Prosecutions, politically, I think, when the Tories get their act together, when you're looking towards Nigel Farage and reform on the right in Parliament, there are going to be criticisms that he's going soft on crime. But make no mistake, they've got to sort this problem out, because at the moment it's like a bath, the prison system. It's full up, and if you're not going to turn off the taps, you've got to let out the plug. So you've got to let people out in order to ensure that actually you can put dangerous offenders into prison. And at the moment, it's almost like a one-in, one-out system where you have people on bail outside of the prison system who really should be in prison, but the magistrates or particularly the Crown Court judges can't do anything because there are no places for them. And Keir Starmer needs to try and sort that out.
And there doesn't seem to be a will or an ability financially to build more places.
No, prisons are incredibly expensive to build. I think I looked at one figure. If you're looking to build a new prison, just one cell on a per cell basis, it amounts to around £600,000. The government doesn't have the money. You're going to be discussing the budget, I'm sure, over the next week or so. And the Justice Department, Ministry of Justice under Shabana Mahmood, is one of those unprotected departments where she's looking at potentially seeing a real-term spending cut in her budget.
Gosh. How does that ring home with you, watching and listening? Get in touch, have your say with us. Winston, would you say, I mean, thank God, mate, you have a good life now. You're a good man with a good life. Do you think it did you any good, prison?
I always say it was the best and the worst thing that ever happened to me. Best thing that, I needed that shock. I needed that thing to come into my life. I've learned skills. I've got a family. I've got married from it. It was the best thing that happened to me. But going through it, I won't wish it on anyone.
OK.
Thank you, the two of you. Now, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. Every day, we're going to be running our poll of the day. And today, we're asking, do you feel safe on Britain's streets as 1,100 prisoners are set to be released early? We'll, of course, bring you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned. The final result will be announced later on in Martin Daubney's show this afternoon. And for all of the latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/polls.
Some of the other stories coming into the newsroom on this Tuesday morning. Metropolitan Police firearms officer Martin Blake has been cleared of the murder of Chris Kaba, who was fatally shot in southeast London in September. The car had been used as a getaway vehicle in a shooting the previous evening and was hemmed in by police cars after an officer recognised the registration plate. Mr. Blake told jurors he believed one of his colleagues was about to die, and so he opened fire to stop the car. Now, we're going to be talking about this throughout the programme this morning.
One man has died and another 15 are injured following a low-speed collision between two trains in Wales last night. British Transport Police have confirmed they are working hard with emergency services and the rail industry to understand the circumstances leading to this collision.
Disgraced Hollywood producer has been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, chronic myeloid leukemia, according to American media. He's Harvey Weinstein, and he's understood to be undergoing treatment in prison at Rikers Island in New York.
And Conservative MP Richard Holden has launched a campaign to give Britain's traditional pie and mash protected status. The meal, a minced beef pie and mashed potatoes with a parsley liqueur, claims has been underappreciated despite being the original fast food. Mr. Holden is set to lead a debate later today on the matter in Westminster Hall. I've never had pie and mash. Have you?
You're not going to believe this, but I had 2 pies yesterday. I had 2. I had one at lunchtime. I had a chicken and leek pie, and then I had one for dinner last night, a mince pie with mashed potato and baked beans.
Oh, yummy.
Isn't that strange?
Do you love a pie? Well, there you go. It's very topical. Do you think it should be given protected status?
Probably not, because maybe it's making me so heavy that I am falling down on this blooming chair again.
Stop. Not true.
Just for slick. I'm going to fix my chair. You get the weather update. Aidan McGivern with that.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Some cloud and rain around this morning, but it is going to turn brighter with a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers by the afternoon. The best of the sunshine this morning, East Anglia in the southeast. Likewise, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England seeing some breaks in the cloud. But an area of rain is moving east. That's going to break up by the afternoon into showers, and these showers will be scattered, hit and miss. Most frequent towards the south as well as the far northwest. In between, some decent sunny spells and with light to moderate winds, feeling pleasant enough, highs of 15 to 17 Celsius. Any showers that do form tend to fade away into the evening, and so it's a lovely end to the day for Scotland, particularly across northern and eastern parts, with the wind also easing and any showers becoming few and far between. Northern Ireland, some patchy cloud about, otherwise largely dry. Barely a cloud in the sky for parts of northern England and North Wales, but always a chance of a shower in the far southeast. They'll tend to move away by after dark, and then overnight with lengthy clear spells, especially for the southern half of the UK, and with a light wind. Temperatures will fall away with some dense mist and fog patches forming by dawn, and lows of, well, mid-single figures in some shelter spots, otherwise 9 to 12 Celsius. Cloudier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland, with some showery rain, particularly towards the far northwest. But it's across central and southern parts of the country where we'll see that dense fog first thing. Could be some issues on the roads, but the fog will lift into patchy cloud. And again, it's a day of scattered showers. The showers once more most frequent towards southern parts as well as the far northwest. A lot of cloud building as the day progresses, but feeling pleasant enough with highs of 16 degrees.
Ooh, a chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's round up what's happening in sport. Paul with us again this morning. So there was a Premier League game last night.
There was. Nottingham Forest beat Crystal Palace. So Nottingham Forest have not won at home since April.
Oh.
But they did yesterday, whereas Crystal Palace have had a terrible time and they haven't won at all this season, still. So anyway, it was Chris Woods that scored the goal. You know, they did the ball up the shirt, you know, the baby celebration.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, is every Premier League footballer having a baby at the moment? Stick the ball up the shirt,
sucking
the thumb. I know, you know, it's nice fun, but I'm fed up with the same celebration.
We're fed up with babies. We don't care.
Enough of the babies in football for crying.
Yeah.
So anyway, but congratulations anyway. But anyway, Nottingham Forest beat Palace 1-0. Champions League is tonight. Arsenal at home to Shakhtar Donetsk. Arsenal have 1-1, drawn 1, beat PSG. Shakhtar still yet to score as well.
And Villa at home as well. Nice to see them in the Champions League.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing really well. So they've won both games. They're playing Bologna tonight, so that's at Villa Park. And they've had the best start that they've had to a season in 16 years. The Champions League is going well. And you look, it's Unai Emery. I mean, you know, we like him. But he came in 2 years ago. They were in the bottom half of the Premier League. Completely turned them around. Here they are now playing in the Champions League. Best start they've had in a long time. They are looking great.
What is a white ball tour in cricket?
Well, it's a white ball, so red ball is a test. Is 5 days. So that's why they use that. See, when you cricketers, they talk about ball, they will hold. See, I'm doing it myself, even though I'm not a very good cricketer. But that's the red ball. The white ball is either one day matches, or T20. So they're going over to the West Indies. So they're playing. Can you imagine going to the West? That's a great tour. Could I be sent over to cover this?
You should ask an OB, I think.
Do you think? I think it would be a good idea.
We'll go with you.
Couldn't we do the show from the West Indies to cover the West Indies?
Do you know,
white ball?
In previous years, I used to do breakfast television from around the world.
Yes.
Yeah, but go on to that. There's no money for it.
Is it because they just used to send you away? Is that what it was? Or was it because it was perks of the job?
Oh, I've been in Las Vegas. I've been in Dubai. I've been in Paris. I've been lots of places. We used to, you know, live this morning from Paris.
See, the problem is, let's be honest, we're called GB News, and if it was called, like, World News, then maybe it's just a little thought.
This is World News with a little bit of GB emphasis.
with GB people over there. But I'll tell you, the England cricket, now this is interesting, because there are 2 players that are in the squad.
Yeah.
Michael Pepper has been called up to the squad, who's a wicket-keeper, first time in the England squad.
He's from
Also in the squad, yes, he is. Also in the squad, Phil Salt.
Very good.
And Pepper.
Salt and Pepper. And I've worked out, I think it's probably the first time that England's named 2 condiments in the same side since Roger Ketchup and Bob Mustard back in 1946.
Did you just make that up?
Yes, I did.
All right,
you know, sometimes you've just got to do something.
Now, indoor golf. Explain to us indoor golf, because the schedule for this, Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy behind this.
So it's in Florida. And they tried to do it last January, and it's one of these tents which is pumped full of air, but there was a power cut and the whole thing collapsed, so they had to get rid of the whole thing. So a power outage is crazy. But anyway, there's 6 squads of 4 players. They all play indoors, and they're saying it's the future of golf. I've got an explainer for you who will probably do it better than me. Have a look at this.
Playing a hole in TGL requires all the same shots as on any other golf course. Each team will tee it up on our real grass tee box to start each hole, hitting into our massive screen. This is what we call screen play. Depending on the result of the tee shot, the teams will continue to play their shots into the screen off the fairway, the rough, or out of sand if they happen to land in a bunker. Teams will continue until they're within the boundary of the green zone on screen. At this point, we move into the real world, where the ball is accurately placed within our tech-infused green zone, and play continues until the ball drops in the hole.
Look at that. It's like real golf, but with a huge screen.
I don't know what to think of it. I think nothing is real. This is all this virtual reality world.
It is, but what they do have, though, which is amazing, they've got green. So they have a proper green.
Yeah.
But because they have one green, it's got all these hydraulics underneath.
Undulations.
That can make it all the undulation different.
And does the whole move around?
Yeah. I mean, it seems really impressive. I wonder how it's going to be.
It's a theme park, isn't it?
It is. It's great. But they've got all the best golfers who are all going to be playing at it. But that's what it's all about.
And then they'll get rid of golf courses as a result.
That's it.
Yeah.
More salt and pepper, that's what I say.
Yeah.
More salt and pepper.
Oh, very good. OK, my friend, thank you very much.
You fancy
indeed.
it, though? You like the golf? You're not sure about it?
Well, it's my great ambition to get back on a golf course.
Yep.
And I just love the idea of being outside, I love the idea of company. So it would take a lot to replace that for me. But if I was able to do it, then yes, of course.
OK.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul Coy.
Do you play?
I don't play golf. I'd like to. I'm better as a caddy.
There's a lovely golf film called Tin Cup.
Yes, Kevin Costner.
Is it Kevin Costner? I know what's his name's in it. Miami Vice. What's his name?
Todd Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays the coach.
Oh, and Rene Russo.
Rene Russo.
Oh, there's a beautiful scene in this. Rene Russo, where Dawn Johnson, I think it's Dawn Johnson, goes up and she's practicing her swing, and he has to hold on to her hips to show her.
Yeah.
I thought, that's a job. That's
the job to do. Yeah.
That's a job to do.
Yeah. I was going to make a really bad joke, but I'm not going to because I think it would be offensive. So I won't even make it.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Great British giveaway. Have a go. You've only got till Friday. Here's how you do it.
Days, man. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Do stay with us still to come. The King and Queen are en route to Sydney Opera House as we speak. We'll be bringing that
they're
live.
en route and we're tagging along. So we're
going to be there.
That is live.
With Cameron Walker. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. We're going to be there live next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Northumberland, the A19 is closed southbound from the Moor Farm roundabout at Dudley to the A191 at the Holyston roundabout for emergency repairs. In Tyne and Wear, Jesmond Road in Heaton is closed after an accident. In Lincolnshire, the A15 remains closed northbound towards the A158 east of Lincoln because of flooding. Buses replaced trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth because of an operational incident. Delays of up to half an hour, some cancelled trains between Rugby and Milton Keynes Central. That's because of a signalling problem. In London, Mandeville Road in Northolt is closed northbound by Northolt Station after an accident causing queues. In Hampshire, the A34 is closed each way between Washwater and Berkeley after an accident. And in West Sussex, the A283 is closed in both directions at Whiston because of a fallen tree. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
I'm joined now by an acknowledged authority on Ludwig van Beethoven. He's already written 7 books on the subject, and next week his 8th is released. It's called In Search of Beethoven, and it stands apart as a deeply personal account of John Suchet's relationship with the great composer as he follows his footsteps from Bonn to Vienna. Yes, I introduce author, journalist and classic FM presenter John Suchet.
Hello, Mike.
It's delightful to have you here, and you have, as I say, written now 8 books on Beethoven. So the question is, why Beethoven?
Well, the word that is often used that I don't like is obsession, obsessive, because somehow there's something not quite right about that. The word that I use is passion. I have a passion for this man's life and music that began, I suppose, around 50 years ago, sometime in my early 20s. I can't remember the exact moment. He kind of crept up on me, and suddenly, as I was a journalist, TV journalist all my life, but before that I was a failed musician. I wanted to be a professional musician, but fortunately for the world of music, I realised I didn't have the talent. But this man's music crept up on me, and I knew from then that it would not go away, it would only increase, and that is what's happened. There are other composers I will listen to, minor names like Mozart, Wagner, Haydn, but Beethoven just does it for me. I was highly educated musically at school because I loved it, to the extent that I wanted to turn professional, but as I say, I didn't have the talent, but that has stayed with me. I read music, I understand music, as you say, I play the trombone, in those days to quite a high level.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 6:27 and today is the final day of the King and Queen's Royal Tour of Australia. It's going to be capped off with a visit to the iconic Sydney Opera House. And Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent, is there for us now. And I believe the King and Queen are just arriving, Cameron.
Yes, Ellie, the King and Queen have just literally arrived as we speak at the Sydney Opera House, this iconic world-famous landmark. It is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and let me tell you, these crowds, which you may or may not be able to see in the foreground, have been queuing for hours and hours for a chance to catch a glimpse of His and Queen. And to be honest, it's a broad spectrum of people, so young and old, men and women. I'm sure there's a few tourists who are thrown in for good measure as well. You may be able to pick up the King's convoy. As you can probably see, it is absolutely humongous, far greater than any kind of convoy you would have in the United Kingdom. This one even includes a private ambulance. So it's a really kind of incredible sight, I think, for Australians, because it's not very often that a senior member of the royal family would be visiting Australia, and this is the final big day of engagement. So it is really special for all the Australians who have come out to greet them. Unfortunately for the Republican protest, there was a very small Republican protest planned. They've actually been banned from this area, so they are way back. They are not going to get they're not going to get close at all to the King or Queen. I believe what's happening now is the King and Queen are exiting the convoy and will enter the Sydney Opera House, which you should be able to see on your screens, and they're going to emerge from the top here and then walk down waving to the crowds, and then we are expecting them to meet members of the public. There was a small opportunity for members of the public in Canberra yesterday to meet the public, but it was cut slightly short because of course we had that protest in Canberra, that one single protester, which meant they were a bit of delayed departing from the Parliament. But yes, it's an incredibly special opportunity for these Australians here today.
See some flags being waved in the forefront there. Are they Union Jacks? Are they Australian flags? What's the atmosphere like there in the crowd?
So the Australian Monarchists League, which is a pro-monarchy group here in the UK, Ellie, they have been handing out these Australian flags to members of the crowds. There are certainly a few Union flags here as well. There's a couple of people actually dressed up in Union flags too, but a vast majority of the flags I can see from and I mean literally thousands and thousands of people who are here are Australian flags, because what we have to remember, of course, is this is the King visiting his realm as the monarch in Australia. So he is King of Australia. It's an incredibly important visit for him because it is the first time he has visited this country as its head of state. He's been here 15 times officially previously, but this is perhaps more poignant because it was going to be a real test how the Australian public were going to receive their monarch over the last 6 days or so. I mean, having followed the King for the last 6 days, I would say a vast majority of the people have been incredibly welcoming to the King, from Indigenous communities, the Prime Minister, who famously is a Republican, the leader of the opposition as well. All of them have been pretty welcoming. Yes, there's been a couple of protests, clearly most notably yesterday inside the Parliament with that Senator Lydia Thorpe, but even some of the Australian Republicans here are saying that was kind of the wrong way to go about it. You need to perhaps reason and give your arguments in a polite manner as to why you think Australia should become a republic rather than keep a constitutional monarchy. But it is an incredible sight here.
And what sense did you get from the King and Queen yesterday, Cameron, when you were there, when you saw Lydia Thorpe heckle King Charles, accusing him of genocide? He appeared to be unruffled by all of that. Do you think he was in any way deterred?
Yeah, it was the most extraordinary thing, and I'm sure those inside the palace were perhaps not anticipating, but maybe seeing it as a possibility that there would be some kind of protest. But I don't think anybody was expecting the fact that there would be a protest from an elected politician. So this wasn't a protester who had breached security to start screaming at the king. This was an elected politician. So it was slightly shocking, I think, to all of us there. But when I saw the king, when he emerged from Parliament House and saw how he interacted with the crowds, as you say, Ellie, he was incredibly undeterred, and a royal source actually told me that, you know, he was only sorry that he couldn't greet every single person who had turned out to see the king at Parliament House in Canberra and had to queue for hours in the searing heat, very similar to today in Sydney, in order to get a chance to meet them. So I think it didn't perhaps bother him too much, and I saw him earlier today at a community barbecue where he was having a go cooking some sausages on the barbie, which I got to try, which tasted amazing, I can assure you as well. But I think he was just keeping calm and carrying on, as he always does.
This Cameron that you're getting from the king, I mean, he looks very energised here. He's in his element, isn't he? Talking to people. We know he's really passionate about being out and about with people, but obviously lots of concerns about his health after his cancer diagnosis, and this is a very gruelling trip for him.
Yeah, it certainly is, Ellie. It's been one of those situations, I think, where we know that doctors have paused his cancer treatment while he is in Australia. And the first couple of days, well, the first day when he arrives in Australia, there were no engagements at all. And then the second couple of days before he travelled to Canberra, it was very short days. It was only kind of morning engagements, and then he rested in the afternoon. Yesterday was the first full-on day of engagements, as I would put it. Today has been another very full-on day of engagements. I do expect you will be able to see the King and Queen very shortly indeed. I can see his team just walking up the steps. Now, there you are, just see a glimpse of His Majesty the King and the Queen, and the crowd have erupted into cheers and applause outside the Sydney Opera House. The King and Queen are waving. The Queen, if you want to know, is wearing a Fiona Clare white silk crepe dress with black piping and a brooch gifted to her by the Royal Australian Military Police, which is her own regiment, and they are going to be forming the party lining on their way to the boats which the King and Queen will be getting on, because they're going to be conducting a fleet review shortly after leaving the Opera House. They're going to be getting on a boat into the Sydney Harbour and then watching a fly past. The King and Queen are just waving to the crowds over to left, and we are expecting them shortly to walk down the steps and then have an opportunity to the public. So they're just viewing at the moment the view of the harbour bridge, and then they will be moving very slowly. We're just posing for a couple of photographs on this site. Of course, it's relatively rare that the King and Queen are at the Sydney Opera House, the first time as King and Queen. And then once all those pictures have been done, they will be making their way down the steps to start greeting the thousands of members of the public who have gathered here. They are all incredibly excited, let me assure you. Behind me, there's two Jack Russells, one of which is wearing a crown even. We know that the Queen herself has two Jack Russell Terriers, not Mick and Sandy, Beth and her beloved dogs. So I'm sure perhaps if there are one or two dogs in the crowd, the King and Queen will be very much hoping to have them. An alpaca actually sneezed on the King yesterday, so that was a great clip. We can just see a massive Australian flag flying over the Sydney Opera House right now on a military helicopter. So it's pomp, it's pageantry, it's patriotism really, but not for Britain, for the Australian people, because this is their king, this is their sovereign. This is not ours at this moment in time. The King and Queen, another huge cheer for them as they start making their way down the Sydney Opera House steps. Very cautious. The King wearing a pair of very snazzy sunglasses. The Queen is not wearing her sunglasses anymore. She was earlier at the community barbecue. Many steps for them to get down, a couple of flights of stairs. The Queen holding on to her husband there. She is wearing high heels. Of course, she clearly does not want to trip. Slowly making their way, crowds continuing to wave their Australian flags, cheering as they get closer and closer, because this is the moment they've been queuing for and waiting for a very long time now. And as we were discussing earlier, Ellie and Eamonn, this was a trip which may not have happened 6 months ago when he was diagnosed with cancer. There was a huge question mark as to whether or not he could make it to Australia, but he has done. And here we are, the King and the Queen heading off to meet members of the public. And I'm sure that man there wearing the crown and the Union Jack suit I saw in the Australian media yesterday. He is 21 years old and he is a devoted Australian royal fan. He's been here in Sydney. I believe he also went to Canberra. It was his grandmother that inspired him to love the Royals. So, you know, you have those super hardcore royal fans, but what you also have is ordinary Australians who are just proud to have King Charles and Queen Camilla here on their land.
And it's a magnificent building, Grant, isn't it? The Opera House.
It certainly is, Eamonn, and it's 50 years that this Opera House has been stood here. It started celebrating its 50th anniversary in October 2023, so a year ago. So it's towards the end of the anniversary here today, and this is why the King and Queen are here to celebrate it. The King and Queen have split off, actually, so the King has gone off to my left, the Queen to my right, and because of course it's difficult for members of the royal family to meet everybody in the crowd, so in order for as many people as possible to meet a member of the royal family, they tend to split off. If you remember back in the 1980s, Eamonn, where it was Prince Charles and Princess Diana who visited Australia, there was perhaps some disappointment from members of the crowd if they didn't get to meet Princess Diana, but I think perhaps the crowds are very happy to meet either King Charles or Queen Camilla here in Australia. They have received the most extraordinary welcome from ordinary citizens throughout the last 6 days, and I think what will be a test of success for King Charles is whether he is genuinely welcomed by a vast majority of the people. He's been welcomed by Indigenous leaders. He's been welcomed by the Prime Minister, who, as we said, is famously Republican, Anthony Albanese, and he's been welcomed by the Leader of the Opposition. So it's kind of a hat trick, plus, of course, meeting the Australian people. And I spoke to the Governor of New South Wales, and we've got some footage of that interview later on in our breakfast programme, but I spoke to her a few days ago, and she told me that the late Queen always said to her, always said that it's up to the people of Australia to decide whether or not they keep a monarch and keep a head of state as the British monarch and as the Crown. So as long as the people of Australia decide to keep King Charles as head of state, that's what will happen, and there's no plans for a referendum anytime soon.
And Cameron, the scenes that we're seeing in front of us now are such an example, aren't they, of the soft power of the monarchy. I mean, no politician could draw crowds as large as this, and the excitement that we're seeing and hearing on our screens right now. I mean, you can actually struggle to see His Majesty because there are so many people straining with their iPhones and with flags and with placards with welcoming messages for His Majesty. I mean, this is such a moment in history for Australians, isn't it, Cameron? I believe the last royal tour by a monarch was 2011.
Yes, Ellie, I didn't get the end of your sentence, but yeah, you're right. The King, I think, you would not get this sort of crowd for either a celebrity or a sitting politician, I would suggest. And what the King does have is this incredible convening power and this power of soft diplomacy, of course, as we know. But I mean, meeting Indigenous communities earlier today, hearing their stories, listening to their lessons of how they tended to be Australian crowds for Australian land for 65,000 years, that sort of thing. For example, a huge issue in Australia, and by the King telling the powers that be to listen to the Indigenous population, they're going to do so. Chants of God Save the King ringing out from the crowds behind me.
I'd like to bring in, Cameron, our newspaper reviewers here in the studio this morning and just get their reaction to what they're seeing here. We've got political commentator John Oxley and we've got Claire Muldoon, who will give us their opinions of what they're seeing. And John, yesterday it was all about a protester. It was about a woman called Lydia Thorpe, and completely different emphasis today.
Yes, so this was at when the royals attended the Australian Parliament at a big event there. One of the senators, Lydia Thorpe, had this quite sort of violent outburst, sort of shouting at the King that he was complicit in genocide. And what we see today, I think, among the people is these crowds speak for themselves. And this seems like one politician who has a bit of a reputation for this sort of thing, trying to get attention for themselves rather than really putting forward their arguments in a sensible and pragmatic way. And even the sort of Indigenous guests at that event yesterday were shocked and appalled by her behaviour. And so it seems much more isolated incident. Yeah. And really, there's a huge amount of support
I just
out there.
look at this, Claire, and I see, a nice showbiz event. I don't see the political significance of it so much, and I'm sure the political stuff isn't that heavy. It's light touch.
Well, it's not that heavy. I was there for a month in April of this year, and I have to say, Cameron is completely right, as are you. I mean, that Sydney Opera House is breathtaking. When you first see it in real life, it's amazing. But yesterday we had the headless picture cartoon of the King in one of the newspapers. We had the outburst from Lydia Thorpe. I'm all for free speech, I'm all for whatever, but as long as the security of the King was, precipient and it was so important, and as long as they weren't harmed in it, that's fine. I mean, everyone should have the ability to, say what they want to do. But generally, and I've still got a daughter out there at the moment, the temperature for a republic, for Australia, is just not there. It really, really isn't. And it's always the same, even in this country. Those for the minority somehow, sometimes shout the loudest. They seem to be able to get their point across. And if Lydia Thorpe's outburst is another discussion to have to make Australia out with the Commonwealth, to make them republic, then have the discussion. But the reality is, not unlike Scotland, which is a bit more closer to home, they had the vote, they didn't vote for it. The same happened in Australia.
John, what's your assessment of how the royal tour has gone so far? Because it was always going to be challenging, wasn't it? Not only with the King's health, but also with Australia's complex history.
Yes, because, we saw last year with the referendum there about certain sort of constitutional arrangements around Indigenous people.
Which I thought was awful. They didn't vote that through. That was really, really poor.
But, what we're seeing is Australia is reckoning with its own history, some of which was sort of very under the influence of British governments, others which was very much their own thing. But what we've seen through the tour is a real reckoning with that. I was reading yesterday that the King met with some of the survivors of the sort of transfers, the so-called stolen children, where Aboriginal children were taken and Indigenous children were taken off and either put into care or given to white parents. And there's a really quite touching moment where he met one of the survivors of there and had a big hug with him. So I think generally, their Majesties have engaged with this quite well. And from what I've seen, OK, there's been these protests around the side, but the first big tour of a monarch for quite a long time in Australia has really sort of rejoined that bond.
Do you think it solidified it? Do you think it solidified their relationship with the monarchy here in the UK? Because Australia is very, very far away.
It is, but I think culturally there is so much in common. There's definitely a lot of Brits over there. There's a lot of Australians over here. They are a country we really see as our cousins in a way. And I think having this shared monarch really helps that. And I think getting the new king out there has reinvigorated that and reinforced it.
What about the reaction that the Queen is receiving there, Claire? I mean, if you went back 15 years, 20 years, she couldn't have dreamt that she would be received so well.
No, not at all. Because, one, she wasn't the Queen then anyway, but even just the whole thing of how they got together, people in Australia especially loved Princess Diana, and they still feel that affinity that she was somehow scorned. She was the lady that was scorned. But I think even in this country, people's interpretations of the Queen have changed. People are embracing Camilla as their Queen, as the rightful heir to the throne by a marriage to her husband, the King. So, it's nice to see some pleasantries. It really is, because all I've heard about her is that she's a really, really down-to-earth, good fun lady.
And both of them, actually, to be fair to them, with that protest yesterday from Lydia Thorpe, you can see the support between each other. Even walking down those stairs just then, holding on to each other there, seeing that closeness between the two of them. It is lovely. And yesterday, with that protest with Lydia Thorpe in Canberra, they were undeterred. I mean, the Queen was giggling, laughing away. I mean, they both brushed it off.
Yes, I think it's very important for the King. It is a very lonely job that no one else in the world understands, and there's very few people you can confide in. And I think having you know, a strong queen has been really good for the king, and particular in that sort of thing. You know, she's quite game, the queen, and really, you know, isn't too offended by that and will roll with the punches. And I think that's, you know, very good and very good support for the king.
But we're in a completely different era now to when Queen Elizabeth II was alive. This, I mean, I think there would have been much greater crowds if her and Prince Philip were there. I think the role of the monarchy in this country in this time has to be dealt with. We have to have the open and honest discussion. Do we really need them as, you know, heads of state? Do we want them as heads of state? What is their role? And when we see Princess Catherine and Prince William coming through, what will their role be? You know, the king is supposed to be the head of the Church of England, and, you know, he's supposed to live a very stoic life, a very seamless life, and yet we are battling a cost of living crisis. They've had a pay increase of £45 million, I think it was. That's going to stick in some people's throats. There's no doubt about that. And the Sydney weather, I mean, it's beautiful, absolutely stunning. The crowd, they're still seeing the crowds here. I mean, it's just beautiful. The scenes are gorgeous.
And I emphasise again how beautiful that building is.
Oh, it's stunning.
You know, 50
iconic,
years old is incredible. And I got my picture taken on the steps outside Sydney Opera House with who?
With who?
Jason Donovan.
Did you?
I should be so lucky. But it was, yeah, we were photographed there, and this is when I was talking about hosting breakfast television from different places around the world in the days when we had money, and that was there, and I also remember doing it there with Michael Parkinson as a guest, and he spent a lot of his life in Australia with his programmes being transmitted there.
Yeah, should we head back to Cameron Walker, who's at Sydney Opera House for us, because we can see a line of children who've just appeared at the front of this walkabout. It looks as though they are getting ready to meet, potentially, the King and Queen. I believe Cameron Walker is there for us, so hopefully we can cross over to him and ask what's happening. Cameron, we can see a line of children here. Are they looking to welcome the King and Queen?
Yeah, they certainly are, Ellie. I think there's been some officials lined up to meet them. Usually that has involved a group of local school children. We certainly saw that yesterday in Canberra at the airport arrival. But also, I think the vast majority of people here have literally been queuing for hours in order to see both the King and Queen. We can just see a flag being flown over by another military aircraft there yeah, just going behind the Opera House just there. As I said, the King and Queen had split up. They appear to be starting to meet up again. And what is happening now is this, because the King and Queen will be off to a fleet review very shortly indeed. Of Governor General and Her Excellency Sam Mostyn and the Chief of Defence get on a boat. So they're going to board a boat, and then they're going to be taken out into the. We're very lucky.
We're just going to happen.
There will be a fly past over the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Cameron, I think we've got you back there. We just struggled with you for a minute or two. Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, sorry, we did just have a few issues with that line. So we saw that flag just being flown across the top of Sydney Opera House there. I mean, the pomp and pageantry is just fantastic, isn't it, Cameron? I mean, we really do it best.
Yeah, I feel like, Ellie, this is certainly the kind of grand finale of the Australian engagement here. This is the final engagement where members of the public are going to have a chance to meet the King and Queen. There is a tomorrow, but obviously members of the public cannot go to that because, of course, King and Queen are now flying off to Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and a very short state visit. So, in contrast to the late Queen's first visit to Australia in 1954, when she was old, she visited around 70 towns and cities across the whole country, whereas King Charles and Queen Camilla has only visited Sydney in New South Wales and Canberra, and it's a very short visit, just 6 days, including the 2 arrival-departure days. But what we do have to be mindful of is the fact that the King still has cancer. He's paused his treatment while he is in Australia and Samoa. We expect him to start up again as soon as he's back. And of course, the King is 75 years old, unlike the late Queen when she first visited Australia when she was 27. So I think crowds here in New South Wales are incredibly grateful that they've had the chance to Queen. But as for other monarchy fans across the Australia, perhaps some disappointment there.
Cameron, I wanted to ask you about the thoughts that Claire Muldoon just shared with us. I'm not sure if you were able to hear her comments a few moments ago, talking about how this tour would look very different under the late Queen Elizabeth, suggesting that perhaps the crowds would have been much larger for the late Queen, who we know was very popular around the world. And do you think this tour has posed questions about the future of the monarchy? You know, how people in Australia feel about not only the King and Queen now, but how they feel about the Prince and Princess of Wales who will succeed them.
Yeah, I mean, Ellie, this is always going to be a huge test, I think, for the King, because this was the first country he's visited where he still reigns as head of state since he took the throne in September 2022. And it was going to be interesting to see how the crowds on Australian soil, but from what I've observed over the last 5 days or so, a vast majority have been incredibly welcoming. And of course we've had one or two protests, but they have been very small in comparison to the thousands who have turned out to see the King or Queen. You could perhaps have an argument that a lot of Australians are just indifferent to the monarchy. It's easier to, sorry, the music's just got very, very loud. It's just easier to have a constitutional monarchy than it is to not, because clearly it's very difficult to change the constitution. And you know, having a president as head of state can create more problems than issues. A lot of people put it to me that it's the best constitutional monarchy because it provides stability.
Cameron, we've got to leave it there. We'll leave you to your music and sunshine and the King and Queen. Thank you very, very much indeed. Really do appreciate it. And from John and Claire back here in the studio, we will say hello again to you guys in about 40 minutes' time. So that's our live update of the King and Queen in Sydney today.
And what a beautiful way to end there with that live music, the King and Queen, and that walkabout at the iconic Sydney Opera House. And the sun is shining down in Sydney. Is it going to be shining here? I hope so. Let's check with Aidan McGibbon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Some cloud and rain around this morning, but it is going to turn brighter with a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers by the afternoon. The best of the sunshine this morning, East Anglia in the southeast. Likewise, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England seeing some breaks in the cloud. But an area of rain is moving east. That's going to break up by the afternoon into showers, and these showers will be scattered, hit and miss. Most frequent towards the south as well as the far northwest. In between, some decent sunny spells and with light to moderate winds, feeling pleasant enough, highs of 15 to 17 Celsius. Any showers that do form tend to fade away into the evening, and so it's a lovely end to the day for Scotland, particularly across northern and eastern parts, with the wind also easing and any showers becoming few and far between. Northern Ireland, some patchy cloud about, otherwise largely dry. Barely a cloud in the sky for parts of Northern England and North Wales, but always a chance of a shower in the far southeast. They'll tend to move away by after dark, and then overnight with lengthy clear spells, especially for the southern half of the UK, and with a light wind. Temperatures will fall away with some dense mist and fog patches forming by dawn, and lows of, well, mid-single figures in some shelter spots, otherwise 9 to 12 Celsius. Cloudier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland, with some showery rain, particularly towards the far northwest. But it's across central and southern parts of the country where we'll see that dense fog first thing. Could be some issues on the roads, but the fog will lift into patchy cloud. And again, it's a day of scattered showers. The showers once more most frequent towards southern parts as well as the far northwest. A lot of cloud building as the day progresses, but feeling pleasant enough with highs of 16 degrees.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Tyne and Wear, Coast Road is closed each way between Heaton and Newcastle after an accident. Buses replace trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth because of an operational incident. The trains to and from Pwllheli are running as normal. In London, Mandeville Road is closed northbound by Northolt Station after an accident causing queues. On the M25 from Kent into Essex, it's down to 2 out of 4 lanes anti-clockwise. The left-hand Dartford Tunnel is closed after an accident. There are queues from Junction 2 to the A2. In Hampshire, the A34 is closed each way between Washwater and Berkeley after an accident. And the Itchen Bridge in Southampton is closed for an investigation. In West Sussex, the A283 is closed each way at Whiston because of a fallen tree. And in Devon, the A361 is partly blocked eastbound, where a lorry overturned and shed its load at the Bolham roundabout in Tiverton, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Good Luck.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. Over 1,000 prisoners set to be freed today.
Yes, the early release scheme rolls on as the Justice Secretary says criminals could serve their sentences from home.
An independent review into the prison system will be launched, with the government pledging to end the chaos and overcrowding in prisons.
King Charles and Queen Camilla greet crowds down under as they wrap up their Aussie tour with a visit to Sydney Opera House.
Labour's Employment Rights Bill is voted through Parliament with flying colours, but some still have their doubts. And very shortly we're going to talk to the Shadow Business Secretary, Kevin Hollenrake, about his.
The firearms officer who shot and killed Chris Kaba while on duty is found not guilty of murder. Some MPs are already asking, why was he ever even charged?
And we debate whether a fast food job makes you working class or not, with everyone from Kemi Badenoch to Kamala Harris boasting of their McDonald's pasts.
And with a third of grandparents believing gaming is a great way to bond with the grandkids, we meet the granny who's obsessed with Fortnite.
She sounds like my kind of granny. In the sport this morning, Nottingham Forest got their first league win at home since April as they beat Crystal Palace, who haven't won all season. Arsenal and Aston Villa are both at home in the Champions League tonight. And if you volunteer to work at next year's Ryder Cup, it would be for $392 that you would have to pay them.
What?
Following a stormy weekend, a settled spell coming up for most of us, although still the odd shower around during the next couple of days. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
7:02. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, over 1,000 prisoners will be released today. The government is pressing on with its early release scheme.
Yes, the Justice Department hopes this will ease overcrowding after the first batch of early releases saw 2,000 inmates freed last month.
A review of the prison system is also being launched today, chaired by former Lord Chancellor David Gauke.
Well, the aim is to put public safety front and centre while ensuring no government is ever put in this situation again.
We're joined now by our political commentator who joins us here in the studio, Theo Usherwood. We say good morning to you, Theo.
Very good morning.
We hear that to make sure that no government is ever placed in this situation again. So what we do is we just don't put people in prison.
Yes, there will be that accusation, Eamonn. You're quite right to point that out, because, of course, the government is releasing another 1,100 prisoners today. That's off the back of the 1,700 they released last month. There's going to be accusations that, there are concerns already from women's charities in particular that people are being released early back into the community who are a threat to women and to children. And in many cases, people aren't being informed, women aren't being informed that somebody who might have abused them or attacked them is out there now in the community, having been released early. So the government is very sensitive to this charge that in actual fact that it's being soft on crime and it's not ensuring that the most dangerous offenders are kept behind bars, and it's insisting that it's been put in this situation by the last Conservative government. And we're hearing that refrain. The current situation is obviously the inheritance from the Conservatives. So in terms of trying to fix it, what they're doing, what they're saying, arguing, is that in actual fact they'll be able to ensure that the most dangerous criminals are behind bars if they are able to, and this is where David Gauke is quite, it's quite interesting that they've appointed a former Tory Lord Chancellor and Justice Secretary to conduct this review. And the aim is that actually if they can keep low-level offenders out of the prison system by keeping them at home, there's some suggestion that they're going to have smart watches to tell them when to meet their probation officer or to meet with their mental health appointment or for some drug treatment. There can be use of technology to keep them at home so they're serving their sentences at home rather than in prison. Those places that, £600,000 a cell, £50,000 a year to keep somebody behind bars can be reserved for the most serious offenders.
I know we're looking at these alternatives. We're looking at fines, tough community sentences, things like that. What about building new prisons? Because there's already warnings out in some of the papers today that if more and more people are not released, we're going to be back to the same situation that we saw in summer by next year. I mean, this is just a cycle that we're in unless more prisons are built.
Yes, and this is a sort of, it becomes a revolving door where you have prisoners who are released from prison, they go and reoffend, and then they're back in prison, they breach the terms of their licence, and they're back into prison. And I think the clue is in the appointment. We can go all the way back to when Keir Starmer first became Prime Minister in the appointment of Lord Timpson. Of course, he ran Timpson's, the shoe repair company, and he employs a lot of former offenders. And he made the comments previously that only a third of prisoners who are actually behind bars shouldn't be there. So there's going to be a drive now to try and keep people out of prison because building prisons is so expensive. And that's the argument that the government's making. There isn't the money to do it, and therefore they need to find an alternative. I completely understand where you come from, where many of your viewers be hanging on a moment, just build more prisons. But the Ministry of Justice is an unprotected department in this budget. There's no extra cash available, and they're looking for much cheaper alternatives.
And a cheaper alternative, you'd imagine, is rehabilitation. I mean, we heard from Winston Davis, didn't we, in the last hour?
Sorry. No, all I was going to say, Ellie, was that, one of the problems is that when people are in prison, and if you're locking somebody in a cell for 23 hours a day, that rehabilitation work just doesn't happen because they're just stuck in their cells, and actually then people come out and they reoffend again because no work has been done to deal with their offending in the first place. And that's why they're looking at saying, well, actually, if they can have a lower capacity in prisons, then that work can take place, whether it's ensuring that people have the right employment when they come out. But they're in a situation now, and it's described to me by a former Chief Inspector of Prisons as being like a bathtub where you've got people on bail where Crown Court judges can't send them to prison because there aren't the spaces available. And so what they're having to do is release people early after serving only 40% of their sentences. And now we understand with this October release today that actually it's going to include people who've been jailed for 5 years or longer, whereas previously last month, actually, it was only people on much shorter sentences who are going to be subject to this early release.
We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for that update. Well, here at GB News, we love to hear what you think. Every day we run our poll of the day. Today we are asking you...
Do you feel safe on Britain's streets as 1,100 prisoners are released early? The live results are on the screen now. Currently, 5% of you say yes. 95% of you say no.
We'll take your word for it. They're not on the screen. So what was that again? That was 5% say yes, 95% say
exactly
no.
That.
Right,
exactly
okay.
That.
So the idea of prisoner release, this is the thing. The public are very committed and very prepared to pay for prison places.
Yes.
Because they want to feel safe. But no government, Conservative or Labour, feels that they can be justified spending money on it. So they're ignoring you. They're not listening to you because you want people banged up. You want the bad guys banged up, but it ain't happening. Final result, we'll announce that Martin Daubney this afternoon on his programme. And for all our latest polls news, how to vote, you go to gbnews.com/poll, and that is where all your info will be.
Yeah. Well, we're joined now by Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade of the UK, Kevin Hollinrake. Good to see you this morning, Kevin. And I know that you're here to talk about Labour's workers' rights package. We'll get onto that in a moment. But we've just been talking about this news today that more prisoners are to be freed early in order to ease overcrowding. 1,100 prisoners being released today. What's your reaction to that news?
Well, there's no way that prisoners should be released if they're a danger to society. And I speak as somebody whose mum spent her life trying to rehabilitate prisoners, but only where they were not a danger to society. So the fact that some of these prisoners are going to be released who are serving longer sentences is quite wrong in my view, and we need to deliver more prison places. Eamonn, you're not quite right saying we haven't invested in more prison places. Spent £4 billion, or £4 billion earmarked, already delivered 6,000 prison places, another 14,000 to go. We want to hear from Labour what they're doing about those places so they can lock up dangerous offenders.
But it's, I'm thinking of a polite way to put this, it's a mess. It's a mess, and what you're replacing and what you're introducing, it's not making up the difference. That's the thing, Kevin. We're in a very bad situation. What's the long-term answer? I mean, you're hardly likely to double or treble the places available, are you?
No, it takes time. You're right about that. And it was a mess last time when Labour released prisoners, including 37 prisoners who weren't supposed to be released. They've got to be able to do their job more competently. And we did see some flaws last time. But of course, he's right to say we believe in prison does work. There's some people are a danger to society, so must be removed from society until they can be shown not to be a danger. I'm not sure Labour have the same view of that.
No, I agree with you there, Kevin, because I think we are going into a different area. Things will not be the same after this, and people will be able to commit crime knowing they're not going to be put behind bars. So whether they're going to get confined to their bedroom or what's going to happen, it is going to be a much softer situation than it has been.
Yeah. Absolutely. Prison, to a certain extent, should be a deterrent. If you say to people where you commit a crime, you're just going to be kept at home for a while, that's not so much of a deterrent. So I have real concerns about that.
But accusations from the Labour Party, I mean, they're laying all the blame at your door, at the Tories. They say this is your mess that they are now having to clear up. And accusations from them that, I mean, this is a scheme, the early prisoners release scheme was started under the Tories. They say that it was actually pushed back by Rishi Sunak in order to get through the general election. And they're having to roll it out now for that exact reason.
Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? But you must ask them next time you have them on your show, Amy, why did they vote against the extra prison places that we legislated for? I mean, that's the thing. They are, to me, Labour will always be soft on crime. So we need to be tougher on crime where people are a danger to society. But I think some real questions about how Labour will handle this in terms of the extra prison places, the 14,000 extra that we had coming down the line, and in terms of releasing people that are a danger to society, both last time and potentially this time.
Kevin, this Labour's workers' rights package, you're not a happy bunny over this. Why not?
Well, we're all in favour of workers' rights. We legislated to increase the availability of flexible working, things like parental leave, making sure people could keep all the tips they receive from customers. We did all that in the last Parliament. What this bill is about, it absolutely smashes small businesses, puts tremendous burdens on small businesses, which could really wipe them out, which will mean fewer small businesses survive, get through this, and fewer start up in the first place. But also, crucially, this is really a trade union's charter. It gives trade unions massive powers, really, to organise workforce, to enter workplaces where there's no union members and recruit them, and then lowers, in fact, abolishes the thresholds they need to take people out on strike, to recognise unions and get them out on strike. So we fear this legislation, which has basically been written by the trade unions, will take us back to the 1970s. And Eamonn, you and I are old enough to remember the 1970s. The UK was not a great place to be.
But the analysis this morning in the papers would disagree with you, wouldn't it, Kevin? They've concluded that the package is pro-growth, that businesses, any hit to businesses would be offset by higher productivity and happier workers, which in turn benefits society, more health and well-being for all.
If you read the impact assessment, it said it could produce growth, but it has very negative consequences for businesses, particularly small businesses. And small businesses are the most important part of our economy. I speak as somebody who was a small business owner, who grew a business. Up to £5 billion of costs, particularly disadvantageous to small businesses. You can't simply sketch over that and say that doesn't matter. It matters hugely. So this is what Labour won't confront, will not acknowledge, and will not provide a carve-out, an exemption for small businesses. Why not? Because they're going to be potentially devastated by this. If you're a small business and somebody takes you to an employment tribunal, as they will be able to do from day one of their employment, those costs of defending that can be catastrophic, whether you've done anything wrong or not. That, to me, is not right, and many small businesses will now not employ people. As it said in the impact assessment, 17% of firms who were surveyed said they're less likely to hire people, more likely to make job cuts.
OK, I'm afraid I've got to cut you there, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed for outlining those arguments. We've got to leave it there.
Pleasure.
Cheers. The Metropolitan Police firearms officer Martin Blake has been cleared of the murder of Chris Kaba, who was fatally shot in the southeast of London. This was back in September 2022. Charlie Peters, our national reporter, joins us in studio. Charlie, here's what I want to know. Throughout all of this, there's so much being said, but so much not being said with all of this. So I just want to know, I'm a simple person, was Kaba a bad man or not? Because I don't know. 1 minute, I mean, this family's protesting, this was an innocent man, terrible crime situated, carried out here. The police are saying the police officer with his actions saved the lives of others because Kaba was trying to run people over, whatever. What can you add to this? And if you can't add anything to it, can you explain to us why you can't?
Well, the jury cleared Martin Blake after just 3 hours.
She was excellent.
Many commentators and analysts said that speaks volumes, how quickly they came to this decision. He was driving a car linked to a previous firearms offence. More details of that we expect will come out later, and there will be further information to come on this developing story. Was he a bad man? Well, it's up for others to make value judgments on that, but on the information that we have available to us, he was driving a firearms-linked vehicle, and the courts said, and the jury believe, that a man was justified in shooting him as he was trying to ram that car into police officers, putting their lives at risk. Now, armed officers in this country, England and Wales, fired just twice last year after some 17,500 incidents where they were deployed for firearms-related incidents. In his statement after this decision made by that jury very quickly yesterday, Sir Mark Rowley, the Commissioner, said that he feared that the systems in place for holding police officers to account were now actually potentially preventing them from doing their jobs. He said that he feared for Londoners. He spoke about the cloud that had been hanging over Martin Blake, that sergeant, that firearms officer, for so many years now since this process was launched. And I think the big question we're going to see now asked about this case is, why was it pursued? With all the footage being shown to the jury, and I saw it in court several times, they came to that decision very quickly that there was a justified and justifiable reason to
I thought it was interesting. The Crown Prosecution Service, they could have dealt with this themselves and made this an internal matter, but they went to a jury Was that a political thing?
Well, it came following significant protests, Black Lives Matter protests. And I think a lot of police officers I've been speaking to in the last day or so since this verdict came out, when we've been talking about trust in communities and policing, which Sir Mark Rowley mentioned yesterday, he said, I'm concerned that any use of fatal force can spark concern from the black community in particular. Well, one serving copper told me last night the lack of trust caused in this scenario was a man driving his car into police officers. Rick Pryor, who's the chair of the Met Police Federation, he's currently suspended because of an interview he gave this channel. He can't talk out and defend his rank and file. They're essentially voiceless at the moment on this issue. He was suspended after he said that the Met senior leadership were failing to call out bad behaviour from minorities. And I think many officers I've spoken to in the last day will say, well, is this not another example of that now? We've had someone driving a car at police officers, putting their lives at risk, failing to stop the car when ordered to do so by 6 vehicles. And the Met statement and the government statement, the Home Secretary, very delicate language about how this will have caused a lot of concern and distrust and anger and sadness. Obviously, it's a tragic incident. But police officers are telling me that their perspective is not being put forward right now, and they're concerned that similar situations may happen again.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for outlining that. There's a lot of delicacy with this, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, at 19 minutes past 7, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now, and you've got until Friday, is that right? Yes, to get your entries in, so don't miss out. Here's how.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. And you really could.
Yes, good luck indeed. Do stay with us. Still to come, the King and Queen have been delighting royal watchers outside Sydney Opera House. We'll be back there in a moment.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've been having live pictures this morning from Sydney of the King and Queen, and this is their royal tour in Australia. They visited the iconic Sydney Opera House this morning, which is celebrating, what, 50 years?
50 years, I believe, yeah. Well, our royal correspondent Cameron Walker sat down with the Governor of New South Wales to get his reaction to the royals' visit.
Welcome to Government House, the official residence of the Governor of New South Wales, Margaret Beazley. Now, she was on the tarmac at Sydney Airport for the King and Queen when they touched down in Australia ahead of this 6-day royal visit. And she has granted a rare interview to GB News. It must have been quite a terrible shock for Australians, as it was in the United Kingdom, where we found out that both the King and the Princess of Wales had been diagnosed with a form of cancer. What do you think the impression was of ordinary Australians?
I think it was one of those, to put it almost colloquially, oh my gosh moments. Is this really the case? So, and again, a matter of great concern for the health of both.
And of course, because this trip of the King and Queen to Australia would have been months in the planning, was there ever a moment earlier this year where you thought this trip might not be able to go ahead?
I think that was always the concern as we watched as His Majesty gradually came out and began to re-engage in his public duties. Also knowing that those public duties, or the number of engagements, were less than what he would usually do, because he is somewhat of a workaholic, I think, like his mother. And also it's a long trip. And of course, His Majesty is still undergoing the cancer treatment. There must undoubtedly have been a lot of discussion and a lot of medical discussions around that for him. And of course, we were watching that very carefully, but we're very pleased that he's here.
Inevitably, the royals have, the royal visit even, has amplified the voice of Republicans. So there appears to be different opinions, doesn't there, across Australia?
There will always be different opinions, just about on any topic. But the Queen has always said, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth always said, it will be a matter for the Australian people, and when that should happen. So it remains a matter for the Australian people. There is, I think it's quite publicly known that there won't be a referendum in this or the next term of this government.
So that's just a sneak preview. You can watch the full interview with Her Excellency on our YouTube channel.
Well, we're now joined by GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who's at Sydney Opera House for us, where we've just seen the King and Queen do a walkabout. Those really excited people in the crowd there had been waiting for hours. What was it like there, Cameron?
Oh, Ellie, the atmosphere was electric here outside the Sydney Opera House. As you said, they had been queuing for hours. Many of them had Australian flags. Of course, it's an incredibly important visit for the King because it is the first time he has visited a country where he reigns as head of state, other than the United Kingdom, since he took to the throne. And it was a tour which may not have happened 6 months ago when he was first diagnosed with cancer, but he was determined to be here. A small 6-day tour, pausing cancer treatment in order to do so, perhaps suggesting how important and seriously he takes this sort of role and this sort of duty, particularly when these kind of engagements are factored into it. This is where I think perhaps the King and Queen maybe shine a little bit, because just the roar from the crowds when they first got a glimpse of the King and Queen emerging at the top of those steps outside the Sydney Opera House there, walking down slowly towards the steps, and then and 20 minutes or so meeting the crowds, members of the crowds who had gathered. There's been a hell of lots of different estimates as to how many people were in the crowds. The lowest I've heard was 5,000, the highest I've heard was 10,000. To be perfectly honest, Eamonn and Ellie, I have not had time to count every single person, but I can assure you it was a lot of people, as you guys saw in the last hour. A lot of people are starting to leave this area now. What's happening is a fleet review of the Australian Navy. We also had, of course, the King and Queen meeting members of the crowds. The fleet review happened, and a fly past over the Sydney Harbour Bridge here. So it's already been going on. This has been the grand finale, perhaps, of the Australian tour for the King and Queen, because tomorrow is literally just kind of an airport departure, and then the King and Queen fly off to Samoa for their second part of this 10-day-long tour of the South Pacific region. So it is a very short visit to Australia, but I think what the takeaway from it is really going to be, have the Australian people welcome the King and Queen, and have politicians welcome the King and Queen, perhaps more significantly, and the Indigenous population. And yes, there's been some protests, but I think on the whole, from observing their Majesties here over the last 5 or 6 days,
appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Listening to Cameron, Tim Smith. Tim's a former Australian MP, and he joins us in the studio. Lovely to see you, Tim. How do you think this is going?
I think it's been a wonderfully successful visit. You couldn't have asked for a more welcoming reception from the Australian people, not necessarily all Australian politicians. But the monarchy is very popular in Australia. And there was a poll out this week that only had support for a republic at 33%.
This Lydia Thorpe, this protest, and she's made a lot of the front pages today with all of this. So she's got her point across, hasn't she?
Well, she does, but she's well known for attention-seeking behaviour, and frankly, she's a political extremist. I mean, she's so extreme that she was a member of the Greens, which is a far-left party in Australia, like it is in the UK. She was too extreme for them, and they parted ways. So she's now an independent with some very strange views. She wants a treaty. She sees herself as separate to Australia. She doesn't really identify as an Australian citizen. Hence, she doesn't recognise the King's authority in Australia. Lydia Thorpe has got a litany of bizarre episodes. She lay in front of the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras and was arrested by the police. She's been banned from a strip club for life. She disgracefully said to a friend of mine, Senator Holly Hughes, with an autistic child, that she should have closed her legs. I mean, this woman ordinarily would never have been invited to such an event in Parliament House, except that she had to be because she was a senator.
She talks about being Aboriginal as well. I can't detect any sign that she's Aboriginal, not from her name or her looks.
Well, she is Aboriginal. She identifies as Aboriginal, and she has Aboriginal lineage, but she also has European lineage. And I noticed that her father made a contribution in public debate in Australia overnight about her European lineage, which she obviously doesn't talk about. And I mean, at the end of the day, Lydia Thorpe is delighted with the fact that we're talking about her this morning. That's why she did this. She's an attention seeker. But in reality, even the Indigenous community in Australia, many of whom support our current constitutional arrangements, Australians are welcoming people, and they're also very respectful of people who carry high office, like King Charles.
There are calls in some parts of Australia to become a republic. Do you think it will ever happen?
No, I don't, and I don't for a number of reasons. Firstly, changing the Australian Constitution is very difficult. There's been 45 proposals to change the Australian Constitution in 123 years, and only 8 have passed. Secondly, the Republicans can't agree on the model. Some want a directly elected president, others want a president appointed by Parliament, some want a presidential republic like the United States, others want to maintain a Westminster system. Essentially, everyone knows that the status quo, the constitutional monarchy, works. So why would you change it? If it ain't broke, don't change it.
Do you know, Tim, at its very worst, I look at this situation and think, this is all just showbiz. This is all, you know, it's relatively harmless, or am I deluded in saying that? Because the King and Queen turn up, everybody says, oh, lovely. All the people in England say, and in Britain say, oh, Australia, I'd like to go there. It looks really, really nice. And a lot of people in Australia say, oh, Britain, I'd like to go there because this is good and it's nice to have this little connection. But Charles hasn't really got any power. So it's all, who's hurt in all of this?
This is exactly right, Eamonn. This is completely harmless. I mean, at the end of the day, the system works. The King spends most of his life in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
The only thing he does for Australia is appoint the Governor-General on the advice of the Prime Minister.
Yes.
Comes to Australia once in a while, has a lovely time, clearly, opens a few things, attends a barbecue, gets heckled by some nutty senator in Parliament House, and we all move on. And we're one big happy family, and that's how it should remain.
Well, it's an amazing country. It is amazing. The thing is, it is so far away. It is so. I've been there a few times. I've felt very at home, very at ease in Australia. Have you been, Nellie?
I have. I've been there once. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love the weather. People are so friendly.
But it would be erroneous for, I mean, it's great having this conversation this morning because you constantly hear, particularly from the BBC, that Australia hates the monarchy and there's anti-British sentiment and it's about to become a republic. It's just not true. It's simply not true. As you've seen, and I think Cam Walker's done a wonderful job bringing in some great shots of Australia, showing the warmth that Australians have, even Republicans, I might add, for the royal couple.
Very good, very good. Lovely talking to you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you very
and we've
much
had
indeed.
this view in from John, who says the monarchy is secure in Australia. No offence to King Charles, but I do look forward to when William and Catherine take over. I hope to see it since I'm 10 years older than William. I celebrated Charles and Diana's wedding at the street parties, and they, to this day, remain my favourite couple.
Very good. OK, coming next, have you ever served chips for a living in the chip shop? Well, if you have done that, do you think that defines you as working class? OK, we're debating that next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Tyne and Wear, the Cradlewell bypass in Heaton is closed after an accident. In Powys, the A470 is closed each way between Glentoimin and Cassoos for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Cunliffe and Shrewsbury. Some buses extending to Aberystwyth. In Nottinghamshire, Lower Parliament Street in Nottingham's closed after an accident. On the M40 in Oxfordshire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed northbound at junction 6 at Watlington after an accident causing queues. In London, the A312 Mandeville Road is closed northbound by Northolt Station after an accident with queues from the A40. In Hampshire, the A34 is closed northbound at Highclere after an accident causing queues. And in Devon, the A361 is closed eastbound from the Bonham roundabout to the A396 in Tiverton, where a lorry's overturned and shed its load, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, we've all done jobs that, I don't know, I've no snobbery about jobs, really. But
No, I never have, no.
to me, I always think of the money. How much you're being paid? Is
Yeah.
it worth it, you know?
I was paid £4 an hour when I worked at my first job at a fancy dress shop, and
Yeah.
I loved it. Got £16.
And you get the outfits as well.
And then I get my outfits, exactly. So I had a lovely time. Yeah. What was your first job?
Working on a milk float. And it's given me an aversion to milk.
That sounds fun.
It's given me an aversion to milk ever
What?
since.
Oh,
Curdled
no.
milk. Smelly good.
Early starts, though.
Early
You're
starts.
still doing them now.
Well, yeah. And then I did newspapers. Oh, it's a whole other...
You worked in a pub as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so whether it's working in a bar, a fast food restaurant, or whatever it happens to be, have you ever worked serving chips? That is the question. Have you ever worked in McDonald's? Now, if so, you're following the footsteps of who?
Conservative leadership hopeful Kemi Badenoch, and yesterday we heard from US presidential nominee Kamala Harris, who said she once had a job at McDonald's.
We had Donald Trump doing his ad, serving fries as well.
Yes.
By a human hand. Nice and clean. Of course, my hands are nice and clean. This guy's a good instructor. I appreciate it. Wow, I'm going to give a really big one so that, look at that, they're just pouring out of it.
You see, I just see that and I see somebody who's prepared to graft, somebody who's prepared...
Yeah,
it doesn't
I
matter
think
what
that-
your class is. You can be
Yeah.
upper class, lower class, whatever, but you're getting a few quid.
Yeah.
Quid for doing that. Which
I think it's a good look to see
Yeah.
someone put on an apron and work in a fast food restaurant.
He actually did look as if he was enjoying it for...
He did, he
for
probably
15,
was.
For 15 minutes
Well,
or
I think,
so,
I
as
think
to,
he
as to
also
it would be.
he also does really enjoy his McDonald's, doesn't he? So he's probably thinking, I'll have a little snack on the side as well. I'd be thinking exactly the same if I worked in McDonald's.
So, McDonald's, is it the way to political success? Is it the way to get on in life? Or does it sort of brand you in a bad way for good? Let's find out now from our panellists. Today we're joined by social behaviour and etiquette expert Liz Brewer, who I'm sure has never worked in a chip shop, and broadcaster Ryan Mark Parsons. Well, Liz, have you ever got your hands dirty?
I've never worked in a chip shop, I can assure you. I was thinking, if you used to do a milk round, does that make you a milkman or a milk person or a milk whatever? I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing about what you do, if you're pulling pints, if you're cleaning windows, if you're serving chips, it doesn't define the person who you are. You choose to do that job for many different reasons. And I find today, young people today, after what they went through with all the lockdowns, they want to be with other people. They want to have a community atmosphere around them. So be it. If they want to go and serve chips in a hamburger joint, fair enough. And also, remember, it hasn't been easy for people to get on the working ladder. So I quite understand. I am amused by the fact that both Kamala and Donald Trump decided that working class meant that you had to get down and serve chips. Maybe we should read, what is working class? I mean, most people today work. Does it really define those people who have a menial job? Is that what the various politicians are trying to...
OK, well, let's find out from Ryan. The job that you do, how does it define you, Ryan? That's the thing. And is it menial? Is it, I mean, I know it's hard. I wouldn't want, to work in a chip shop would be a very hard job, I would say.
Well, I would say any kind of low-skilled job might be classified as that, but I would say the main contingency, and what Kemi Badenoch argues, is that if you're working in a job and you're surviving by working in that role, where you can only get food from the salary that you get from that job. I think she was saying as well that she couldn't afford her bus fare, all the while she was working in McDonald's. When she left Nigeria, she had £100 to spend. I think you can come from, because she came from a middle-class family in Nigeria, you can come from a totally different background, move to another country, or circumstances change if you're living in the same country, and then you can live a working class experience based on whether the job allows you to survive. I mean, I spoke before coming on air to friends about this who went to university, and these are upper middle class friends. I would say, culturally upper middle class, and they were saying, oh, yes, well, I used to work in Wetherspoons. Yes, but they're saying this all the while. They've got Coots accounts and they're under their parents' names and they're, waving around a Coots card. You are not working class because you happen to work in McDonald's whilst you're at university. If you quit that job, your parents will continue sending money to your bank account. I'm talking about the people, like Ms. Badenoch argues, that have to work to survive. And I think that's the significant differential between people that claim to be working class and people that are like the idea of being working class, but actually they've got full support from family.
Liz, I mean, Ryan makes it a good point there, doesn't he? I mean, it doesn't work like that, does it, our class system? You can't just whack on a McDonald's hat and your uniform and all of a sudden you're working class.
We bang on about class system. What is the difference then between middle class and working class and upper class? So what you're trying to say is upper class people inherit, or they used to. Then we had the failure of Lloyd's and a lot of the children had to be taken out to school, and parents actually nowadays, most of them do a job of work. What defines working class, middle class, upper class? It's that business of, well, he's up there, I'm down here, and he's down there, or she. That really doesn't define people who work. You can choose the job you want to do, hopefully, and even if you have to pull pints in order to do the work you want to do, it doesn't define the person you are. And you can't group people just because you think, oh, they're middle class. What's the difference between middle class and working class? They're both working. So that's my argument.
Yeah, and I think that's a fine argument and it's very good. And when I came to London earlier, you were one of the first people that I met socially, and I'm from a completely different social class than you. But I was embarrassed about it at the time. I'm not anymore. But I would have.
Believe that. I wouldn't have believe it. You were embarrassed. That wonderful, fabulous accent, the Irish accent. I even have that on my car. The guy that tells me whether I go left, right, forward. I got the Irish accent.
Very good, very good. But you are very. It's a whole debate for another day as to what way you feel about what you do. But you're right there, and Ryan, I think we all work, and if you have to work, that makes you working class. You know, there you go. We've got to move on, folks. But thanks for airing this today, and people will have their say as a result.
Yeah, let us know what you think. You'll certainly have a view. gbnews.com/your say.
There we go. And we're back to the papers after this.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
We shot with the London Eye in the background, so it's quite an iconic shoot to do my cover of the Playboy magazine.
And you moved into the mansion for a while. Hugh called you the British Carmen Electra. You were one of his favourites, and it's renowned for its parties, of course. Over there, you must have had a few of those. Must have been wild times.
Fantastic parties, yeah. I mean, I met some incredible people. I will forever respect him and everyone at Playboy for the love and the support.
And you were on giant billboards, you were modelling for Nike, for Reebok, you're earning thousands of pounds a day.
Wow.
Absolutely like living the dream in terms of a model's lifestyle, and then things began to change.
Well, I've been living in Windsor for 4 years, and I can't get back into Windsor at the moment. The rents have gone ridiculous. I was paying $550 a month, and then the landlord just turned around one day and said I need to be paying $750. And I didn't really have a proper tenancy agreement, and I looked through it and I said, oh, can we get something in writing? And he was like, oh. So in the end, I wrote a tenancy agreement out from off the internet and I got it all signed. But then he went, if you're not going to pay the extra £250 a month, then you're going to have to move out. And I was like, well, you're going to have to give me 4 weeks. I can't just move out. I've got nowhere to go. And I think he thought he could just throw me out there and then,
Yeah.
and he said, I've got someone that's going to move in that's going to pay £700-800 a month. So I went and got the tent, and I thought maybe this will be the way I can go for a few months or so, you know, and it was still summer a few months back when I became homeless. So, you know, I got the tent and I got all the cooking equipment and what have you from the money I got from some of the jobs I did. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and be a free spirit for a bit, and I'm going to have to just do my own thing. And you know what? It was the biggest mental relief to be able to have my own space. I mean, that was so liberating. Absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Claire Muldoon and political commentator John Oxley, they've got the papers. And John, if you earn a certain amount of money, no matter who you are, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a nurse, you could find yourself facing 40% tax under the new budget.
Yes, that's right. So this is an issue that's been going on for a while. But basically, as people's salaries go up with inflation, that sort of nominal figure increases, what normally happens is we move the tax thresholds to keep up with that. But that's being frozen, and it's going to stay frozen for the next 3 or 4 years. And that means more people are going to be going up into that 40% tax bracket, even if they're not, in real terms, getting any richer.
Claire, what do you make of that?
Well, you see, this whole fiscal drag is what it's called. It's quite difficult to get one's head around, actually. And I think, well, I need it spelled out to me. I'm of the opinion that if all of these pay inflation busting grades that were given to people over the past couple of years have now put everyone into a position where they are in the higher tax bracket. So if they were going to be in that tax bracket, they would be taxed anyway. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
Is it the fact that they're not getting anything any more for their money because they're being taxed? I don't think so.
Well, what's the difference, again, as to what type of job you do? For instance, you could be owning or working in a chip shop, fish and chip shop, and probably doing very well, but working hard, working really hard. But, you know, fish and chip shop owners, they do quite well. They have a nice car, probably have a nice house, whatever, and we all like fish and chips, so business is good. Do you think you're defined by what you do, your class?
No, not at all. I think if everyone is working, everyone actually, by definition, therefore, is working class. I can't stand this idea of privilege, of where you come from, what you do, what your parents did. It really is ridiculous. And the census, the ONS, still, when a child is born, they will still put down on the birth certificate what the occupation was of the parents and where the postcode of where the child was born. And then they use those statistics to actually project what that child will be like later on in life.
John, you see, we were talking there, I'm a bit blind to what people do. You just sort of see, do I get on with Claire? Do I get on with John? Yeah. That's what works to me. But it is important to some people, and when I think of it, Glasgow will be the same as this, but in Belfast, there's certain areas of Belfast which you live in and certain jobs you do and certain schools you go to, which defines how you get from maybe lower class to upper class, you know, and you're defined by that. What do you think?
We are a nation that in some ways is obsessed with class, and that thing always hangs around, and like those small differences, you know, what you call the sofa or the settee, and that thing is a thing that we're
Toilet loo,
all those
loo,
things.
Actually.
And, you know, people are preoccupied by that. But I think for most people, most normal people, that's mostly a bit of fun. Like, actually, when you're with someone, when you're, you know, in a job or in the pub or wherever, you just take people how you find them.
But you see,
relax
Ellie,
about that
you're
stuff.
exactly the sort of person you take as you find. I would never look at you and think of class. I would think beautiful. I would think intelligent. I'd think, you know, the sort of things that.
Who are you talking to?
Well, I'm talking to her because.
Oh, Ellie. Right, I was getting worried. It was calling you beautiful.
But how do you stand on this? I mean, I don't know much about your background, but I would say you and I be okay. You know, there's nothing much different about my life than your
Well, I
life.
just take people as I find them. So I wouldn't.
But that's the way we should do,
I think
because
most people do.
We've got be kind everywhere on the internet, but those that often say it the loudest are the worst, who are really not kind. And yet you go into a room, the fact you're in that room together means you've got something common with each other. And that's the common ground. I would say we're all commoners. And does that come from having a monarchy? I don't know.
But the funny thing is, when you look at sitcoms like...
don't mention Mrs Brown's Boys.
No, Hyacinth Bouquet. What's her name? What's that one?
Patricia Rutledge,
Keeping Up Appearances. And it's all about keeping up appearances for some people.
Yeah. There is a lot of that in this country, though. There is an obsession with where you went to school and who you know and what accent you've got. I think there is an obsession with that here in Britain, but maybe less so as time goes on.
Yeah, because the language has been diluted as well.
Yeah.
Well, look, give us a view, have your say on this as to what you think constitutes your social class. Is it your job? Is it where you live? Is it how you speak? Is it what school you went to?
Is it what your
Is it a
parents
combination
did?
of all those things, what your parents did? Or is it not important to you at all?
Not important to me.
Let us know. John, Claire, thank you both very much indeed. See you again in about 45 minutes' time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll definitely have an opinion on that one at home. Let's have a look at the weather now, shall we, with Ada McGibbon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Some cloud and rain around this morning, but it is going to turn brighter with a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers by the afternoon. The best of the sunshine this morning, East Anglia in the southeast. Likewise, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England seeing some breaks in the cloud. But an area of rain is moving east. That's going to break up by the afternoon into showers, and these showers will be scattered, hit and miss. Most frequent towards the south as well as the far northwest. In between, some decent sunny spells and with light to moderate winds, feeling pleasant enough, highs of 15 to 17 Celsius. Any showers that do form tend to fade away into the evening, and so it's a lovely end to the day for Scotland, particularly across northern and eastern parts, with the wind also easing and any showers becoming few and far between. Northern Ireland, some patchy cloud about, otherwise largely dry. Barely a cloud in the sky for parts of Northern England and North Wales, but always a chance of a shower in the far southeast. They'll tend to move away by after dark, and then overnight with lengthy clear spells, especially for the southern half of the UK, and with a light wind. Temperatures will fall away with some dense mist and fog patches forming by dawn, and lows of, well, mid-single figures in some shelter spots, otherwise 9 to 12 Celsius. Cloudier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland, with some showery rain, particularly towards the far northwest. But it's across central and southern parts of the country where we'll see that dense fog first thing. Could be some issues on the roads, but the fog will lift into patchy cloud. And again, it's a day of scattered showers. The showers once more most frequent towards southern parts as well as the far northwest. A lot of cloud building as the day progresses, but feeling pleasant enough with highs of 16 degrees.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Tyne and Wear, the coast road is closed in both directions between Heaton and Jesmond after an accident causing queues. In Nottinghamshire, Lower Parliament Street in Nottingham's closed off King Edward Street after an accident. In Powys, the A470 is closed each way between Glantoimin and Cassoos for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth, with some buses extending on to Aberystwyth. On the M40 in Oxfordshire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed northbound at Junction 6 at Watlington after an accident, with queues from Junction 5 at Stokenchurch. In London, the A312 Mandeville Road is closed northbound by Northolt Station after an accident, with queues from the A40 at the Target roundabout. The M20 in Kent partly blocked westbound, where a vehicle caught fire between junctions 9 and 8 from Ashford to Maidstone. And in Devon, the A361 is closed eastbound towards Tiverton after a lorry overturned and shed its load.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Then, good luck.
From the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good morning. Over 1,000 prisoners are going to be freed today.
The early release scheme rolls on as the Justice Secretary says criminals could serve their sentences from home.
An independent review into the prison system has been launched, with the government pledging to end the chaos and overcrowding.
King Charles and Queen Camilla greet crowds down under as they wrap up their Australian tour with a visit to Sydney Opera House.
The firearms officer who shot and killed Chris Kaba while on duty is found not guilty of murder, but some are already asking why he was ever even charged.
We've been debating this morning if having a fast food job makes you working class. That's after the likes of Kemi Badenoch and Kamala Harris boasted about working in McDonald's.
And with a third of grandparents believing gaming is a great way to bond with their grandchildren, we meet the granny who's obsessed and very, very good at Fortnite.
And in the sport, Nottingham Forest got their first league win at home since April as they beat Crystal Palace, who haven't won at home all season. Arsenal and Aston Villa both at home in the Champions League tonight. And Michael Pepper and Phil Salt have both been included in England's cricket tour of the West Indies. Please make your own joke up there.
Following a stormy weekend, a settled spell coming up for most of us, although still the odd shower around during the next couple of days. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
1.5 minutes past 8 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Very nice to have you on board. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So in about 20 minutes' time, we have a grandmother who does all this gaming, and she's very, very good at it, which is interesting, not only about her age, but about her sex. The fact that, because you don't associate it with women.
No, yeah, that's true. You think gaming, you think teenage boys in their bedrooms, don't you?
Yeah, or
on their controllers.
Or men who've got nothing else to do with their lives.
Man children.
In their garden.
I wonder I was just waiting to see where you were going to look, just as you were saying, men who haven't got anything better to do.
Do you like to
You look over at me. You know what? Not really. Although, do you know what Fortnite is?
What do you mean, not really? Either that means no, does it?
It's kind of, well, I used to. You know, it was like back in the day, and there was Tomb Raider, and I spent too many hours doing this thing, and then thought, I just can't spare the time these days.
Yes, no, I used to do that tennis thing, you know, that...
Like the Wii?
Beep, beep, beep.
Do you mean the Wii?
Beep.
Oh, Wii, this, I tell you, Wii is like, we're talking about 40 years in front. So the Wii, have you done the Wii where you...
Yeah, I did. I had the dance thing, the Wii dance.
Did you?
Yeah, but I wasn't very good at it.
You're talking about Pong, right? So all it was just either side. It was just, it was two.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was like, this is, so you get that, and you just get the ball, and you just go across, and you'd think, this is unbelievable that you could play this on your TV compared to Fortnite now.
Yeah.
But we can't laugh, because if you're really good at Fortnite, you can make lots of money.
Can you?
If you're a good gamer, yeah. You can make millions of pounds. So maybe this granny we're going to talk to her in about 20 minutes' time. But she could be making a fortune.
Sports, the thing is, they're making more money from pretending to do the real sport than actually doing the real sport.
More money
but it's
that way,
like the golf that you're featuring today.
Yeah.
this indoor golf, that you pretend to do it. It's all virtual. It's all virtual. I mean, what is the world coming to?
It's where the money is, Eamonn.
But no, but it's we take ourselves out of real life. We become engrossed in these screens and things, and that's where we now lead our lives.
Same with everything, though, isn't it? Like dating.
Everything.
Dating's all online now. Most people do their meetings online.
Yeah, but what do you mean? Like you speak to a false image of someone and talk.
Well, it's all dating apps, isn't it?
I don't know.
They're talking on dating apps. Well, neither do I. But that's how the kids are doing it these days.
She's betrothed, I have you know.
on the dating apps, and then people having pictures that they've face apped and face tuned, and
then you've got the
stuff.
big. Then there's obviously this is not with the dating, that'll probably happen. The big goggly things.
VR goggles,
yeah. But the thing is, I can't imagine what anybody's doing around me while I'm doing it. I'm too conscious of that. Yeah, the virtual reality thing.
We can't keep track.
I think so.
Good anyway.
I do.
But she must be a cool granny. I'll say that much. Her grandkids must think she is.
Yeah.
The coolest granny in town.
Over 1,000 inmates will be released today as the government presses on with early prison release schemes.
Yes, the Justice Department hopes this will ease overcrowding after the first batch of early releases saw 2,000 inmates freed last month.
A review of the prison system is also being launched today, chaired by former Lord Chancellor David Gauke.
Well, the aim is to put public safety front and centre while ensuring that no government is ever put in this situation again.
We're joined now by our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Now, Mark, you're outside Wormwood Scrubs there, and also beside you there we've got GB News Northwest reporter Sophie Reaper, and you're, Sophie, at HMP Preston. OK, Mark, tell us the story.
Just starting, and within the next few hours, some 1,100 prisoners right across the country will leave this Category B prison. It's the latest phase in the government's attempt to try to get a handle on the very significant overcrowding within the prison system. In fact, by July next year, they expect it to have reached capacity again. You'll remember that earlier this year we got to effectively capacity within the prison system. That then saw just weeks later 1,700 inmates being released, having served 40% of their sentence rather than the 50% previously. Now, the concern about releasing so many prisoners at once was that the probation and wraparound services weren't fully prepared for them. There are anecdotal reports of a number of reoffending incidents that took place amongst the cohort that have been released. That would come as no surprise, given that more than a quarter of people who leave prison go on to reoffend within a year of leaving prison. But now we've got the next phase in that eventually aim to release some 5,500, but it is the long term that the government is going to focus on, looking at perhaps a move away from shorter prison sentences to tougher community sentences.
Sophie Reaper, let's cross over to you now at HMP Preston. What's the situation there this morning?
Well, according to penal reform charity, the Howard's League, there are around 87,000 prisoners across England and Wales right now. HMP Preston is suffering the third worst case of overcrowding, with 156% here at this prison. Now, that is the kind of situation that is reflected across England and Wales when it comes to our justice system, and that is why Labour have brought in this early release scheme. Now, we saw around 1,700 prisoners released last month, and today we're expecting around 1,100. The difference is, though, this time, is that instead of 50%, they could have only served 40% of the time in prison. And also, last month, it was only prisoners who had been sentenced to 4 years or less. Today, it could be prisoners who had been sentenced to 5 years or more. Now, I spoke with the Department of Justice yesterday, and they reassured me that those exemptions that applied last month will also apply this time. So, for example, anyone who's been convicted of a serious violent offence, anyone who's been convicted of a sexual offence, or anyone convicted of a domestic abuse-connected crime, they will not be included in the prisoner release scheme. The MOJ have also reassured people that they are reinforcing that those releases are strictly monitored on licence by the probation service through measures which can include electronic tagging and curfews. So, despite those reassurances, I think there will be still some people in the UK today who are incredibly nervous about this release scheme.
I think you're right there. Sophie Reaper outside HMP Preston and Mark White, our Home and Security Editor outside HMP Wormwood Scrubs. Thank you very much indeed.
OK, we do want to say to you, your view is so important. What do you have to say about this and what you say about stories in general? So that's why every day we run what is going to be called Poll of the Day.
Yep, and today's question is, do you feel safe on Britain's streets as 1,100 prisoners are released early? Well, the live results are on the screen now. Currently, 3% of you say that you feel safe, that yes, you do. 96% of you say no, and 1 are underfined.
The final result, Martin Daubney this afternoon will have it available there. For all the latest on polls, poll news and how to vote, you go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, Metropolitan Police Firearms Officer Martin Blake has been cleared of the murder of Chris Kaba, who was fatally shot in South East London on the 5th of September 2022.
Our national reporter Charlie Peters now with the story behind all of this. Charlie.
Well, when this decision to charge Martin Blake went ahead and also to name him, hundreds of firearms officers around the country laid down their weapons. They said they did not have the confidence to do their job, widely considered within policing to be the best job in the game because it is carrying such a height of responsibility. It's a role where you need to protect and preserve life, and you're put into the most challenging situations. But hundreds of those officers felt they could not do that confidently because they felt as though the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, and the CPS would vexatiously investigate and charge them and put them through what Martin Blake has just endured, 2 years of process. And they say the process is the punishment. He's been found not guilty. The jury returning that verdict after just 3 hours.
Yeah, but it took 2 years to get there.
Precisely. The process is the punishment.
I wonder would he ever lift up a gun or firearm again?
Well, the Met said he's reinstated today, but he'll still have to go through an IOPC investigation now in terms of a gross misconduct hearing, cleared legally, but maybe not professionally. For him, unfortunately, from his perspective, the saga goes on. And it comes, I think, as there's going to be a discussion now about why did the CPS and the IOPC push for this. Now that all the legal process has been done, questions are being asked. You can see it on the front page of the Daily Telegraph today. MPs are asking, why did they make that decision? Was that politically motivated? Were they lent on by the Mayor of London, who regularly made concerns about how the black community was raising fears about these actions, about that incident?
The thing is, they then didn't have to make the decision. The police service didn't have to make the decision. So it was put to a jury
Precisely.
to make the decision, which could have gone either way.
It could have. But with all the evidence they were shown, the prosecution's case, led by the most senior prosecutor in this land, Tom Little KC, was that Martin Blake was frustrated or angry and he didn't have a justifiable reason to take that shot. By contrast, the defence said, no, he reasonably believed that his lives and the lives of his colleagues, more importantly, according to the defence, were at risk. The jury returned after, as I said, just 3 hours. I should also say that at the Old Bailey yesterday, the jury wanted to make a statement after they returned that verdict, but they were not allowed to do so by the judge. We'll never know what they wanted to say, and we can never ask.
Why would the judge not allow that?
I don't know. Maybe I think this case has been so contentious and has raised so many delicate concerns, and it's had a level of delicacy, actually, that lots of officers have told me they don't like. They want more straight talking from the police and the CPS and the institutions. They want them to feel defended in these sorts of cases.
Well, interesting that you talk about delicacy, because very delicate wording from the Home Secretary and indeed the London Mayor, actually, in response to this.
Yeah, both referring to trust from the black community after this incident. So Mark Rowley, in defending Martin Blake and saying that he shouldn't have been put through this process, in effect that he's losing trust in the move for accountability for officers, he also referred to concerns raised by the black community. Lots of police officers I've spoken to in the last day have told me that that sort of language doesn't help in this situation. We've also heard from the Runnymede Trust, a big race relations charity, saying that this points to a lack of accountability. One officer's told me in the last half hour, how can you have more accountability than a trial by jury after 2 years of investigation? What further layer of accountability is there? He was cleared by a jury of his peers after all that investigation, after hundreds of instances of that footage being played over and over again in court. What more could they want? When they keep using this language about a lack of accountability, in fact, they say, many of these officers, that they are making this process more difficult, more dangerous. They're reducing trust in policing far more. One copper told me last night, if you want to know what's affecting trust between minority communities, in particular the black community in London, and police officers, it's ramming your car into them when they ask you to stop when you're driving a firearms-linked car. That's going to do more to harm trust between these two communities than, say, reacting violently to that situation. So lots of questions for the CPS, lots of questions for the IOPC, but I don't think we're going to see particularly strident language from any of the politicians in government around this. They're going to continue to say, as you say, Ali, using delicate language on this, trying to balance concerns and prevent a further round of protests that we saw when this incident occurred 2 years ago.
OK, Charlie, as you say, very delicate. Thank you very much indeed. We go to Australia now, and Sydney's welcomed the King and Queen. This is the final outing on the Royal Tour. They visited the iconic Sydney Opera House.
Well, let's go now to GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker. And what an incredible sight it was this morning for us, at least, Cameron Walker. It looks like the afternoon, perhaps going into the evening there for you. Crowds waiting for hours to capture a glimpse of the King and Queen.
Yeah, they certainly were, Ellie, and this was probably the penultimate engagements of a very busy day here in Sydney. The King was at a community barbecue around lunchtime with the Queen. I was there as well. He was got his tongs handy and started cooking the sausages on the barbecue with the local restaurants here in Sydney. He also met first fire responders and had a demonstration of a sheepdog trial as well. So that was very, very fun for the diverse communities of West Sydney. But then, as you say, he came here to this extraordinary sight with this thousands and thousands of people in the crowd. I have got a number for you now. It was 8,000 people. That's what the police officers are telling us here. 8,000 tickets who were queuing for hours in the searing heat of Sydney in order to get a chance to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen. And the King and Queen arrived here. They walked down the Sydney Opera House steps and then tried to meet as many people as possible. They split off at one point to make sure that as many people as possible could at least meet one of them. People waving their Australian flags. Some even had Union Jacks, or Union flags as it is when it's not at sea. And speaking of the sea, following the Sydney Opera House engagement, the pair of them boarded a boat and went out into the Sydney harbour here behind me to conduct a fleet review of the Australian Navy. There was also a magnificent flypast as well to end the formalities, I suppose, of the Australian tour. So this really was the season finale of this relatively short 6-day tour of Australia, New South Wales and Canberra. Yes, there were a couple of protests, but I think a vast majority of the reception here for the King and Queen has been positive. And of course, it was incredibly significant because this is the first time that a reigning king has ever been on Australian soil. And it is the first time he has visited another realm where he reigns as head of state since his accession in 2022. So it was a big test for him whether or not he could pull it off. And it looks like, from the kind of people who've been welcoming him here,
Walker there for us in Sydney. Thank you very much indeed.
Our money ran out in the meter. It is such a long way, though, to Sydney. I remember
24 hours, isn't it, on a plane?
Yeah, and I remember the first time I went, and the captain on the plane said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're now crossing the coast of Australia." Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, thank goodness me.
Oh, no, you're not there yet.
Not there for another 9 or 10 hours. After that, but it's a massive place, massive place. And basically, it's like a big polo mint, isn't it? That the outside of the country's populated and the inside's empty. Yeah. Basically.
It's really only this side, isn't it, that's actually densely populated. Yeah. You've got Perth on the other side.
Right. But certainly worth a visit. It's worth a visit, but a long way to go. Goodness knows what it feels like going to New Zealand or going to Antarctica, but...
Well, my brother's coming back from New Zealand this week, actually, to see us. 36 hours it takes from New Zealand. Gosh. 36. He's going to be exhausted.
That'll be like a 3-day trip for me, that would be. Yeah.
He's going to be like
You're
a
gonna
bear with a sore head.
do it in stages.
When he lands back, yeah.
Other stories you're waking up to this morning. Let's have a look at what's coming into the newsroom. A man has died and another 15 injured. This is a collision between two trains. This happened yesterday in Wales. The Transport Police have confirmed they are working with emergency services and the rail industry to understand exactly what happened.
The disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein has been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. That's according to US media. It's a type of leukemia. Harvey Weinstein is understood to be undergoing treatment in prison at Rikers Island in New York.
Conservative MP Richard Holden has launched a campaign to give Britain's traditional pie and mash protected status. He claims the minced beef pie and mashed potatoes combo has been unappreciated, despite being the original fast food. And Mr. Holden set to lead a debate on the matter in Westminster. Of all the things we've got to discuss...
Is pie and mash the most important thing?
Is it?
Well, I would say probably no.
Okay.
But lots of people love their pie and mash, especially in my part of the world, in Essex and East London.
Yeah.
Lots of Cockneys.
If him doing what he's doing says that you can only make pie and mash in certain parts of England or wherever, and this will lead to, 1,000 more jobs or whatever, fine. But
that's not the argument, is it? It's just that it tastes really good and it needs protected status. Steve's been in touch on that, saying, as a Cockney, I've only ever tried pie and mash and the sauce once when a mate took me to a shop. I didn't like it at all. You can't beat a proper pie any day. That's what you had yesterday.
Well, what's a proper pie?
Well, I guess what you had, like steak and ale or chicken and...
Oh, sorry, why is not a pie?
That's a different kind of pie.
What do you mean?
Because you've got the sauce, the liquor sauce, like a parsley sauce. I think it's different.
But no pastry?
Yeah, it's got pastry on it.
Well,
I don't know why you're asking me. I haven't had it before. You have to let me know. But you had yours with gravy, I imagine, yesterday.
I did have it with gravy, yes.
I know you too well.
Yes.
And then you had baked beans as well.
As well, and a little bit of tomato ketchup.
There's a lot of liquids going on there. Very wet
Look, it was
dinner.
nice. Leave me alone. It was nice.
Very wet dinner.
Doing my bit for the economy.
Anyway,
do you know
what we need to do?
What?
We need to head out. Maybe we can take Richard Holden with us. Head to East London, and then we can do a taste test.
Oh yes.
Of the proper Cockney pie and mash.
That's a good point, isn't it?
I'll put that idea out there.
Very good.
Let us know what you think. Pie and mash, should it have protected status? Get in touch, especially if you're from East London or Essex, because I know you feel very passionately about it.
Okay.
gbnews.com/you'll say.
Great British Giveaway ends on Friday this week. 36 grand. You know the score. Here's how to do it.
Yes, good luck indeed. Well, Eamonn's busy gaming over here.
Yeah,
You're being good company with our next guest.
Because I'm a grandfather, you see, I'm right. The sort of thing that grandfathers do and grandmothers. We're going to be meeting one of them, and her game is...
Fortnite. Favourite
Fortnite.
game.
We'll be back quicker than a fortnight right after this.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're talking catchphrases and jingles because, of course, instantly recognisable and sometimes a little annoying in the case of the Go Compare one, perhaps. An iconic advertising jingle can stay in your head all day and sometimes stand the test of time. Sound expert and music designer for some of the world's most renowned companies, Michael Boumendil, joins us now. Good morning, Michael. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
First of all, what is the secret ingredient, the secret recipe for a hit jingle that stands the test of time over the decades?
Well, I have to say that secret 100 years ago is not the secret today, because today all the brands are using music. So the first secret is to stand out, is to make something different, to do something interesting. The other thing I believe is to do something that is true to the brand, that is talking to you. You know, it's not only about the memorability, but it's about telling something about the brand. You know, when I hear you, your voice, your tone of voice says not only who you are, I can recognize your voice, but it says a lot about your mood, your personality. So the other reason why we make successful jingles is because they're catchy, because they're different, but also because they say something to us that is interesting, and finally keeping this link between the brand and the customers.
Michael, tell us about your involvement in the new Maybelline jingle. This makes me, I haven't heard it, But it makes me a little bit sad because I was an avid Maybelline concealer user for many years. Other brands are available, but the jingle was the main reason why I got bought into it.
You don't have to be sad because we kept most of the legacy.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 8:25. Now, when you think about gaming, you might think about teenagers and young guys probably sitting in their bedrooms, yeah, gaming away. But it turns out there's a growing number of grandparents who are now taking up the hobby.
And not all of them are male. 7 million gamers are aged over 50, 7 million of them. And we're going to introduce you to one this morning. Her name's Kath Bowie. She's 76 years of age, and Kath has become a worldwide star of the game Fortnite. Good to see you, Kath.
Hello, good morning to both of you.
Morning.
And tell me this, Kath, is Bowie your real name?
Bowie. Yeah.
Bowie.
Yes, it is my real name, yes.
And you do it a Bowie and not a Bowie?
It's a Bowie, yes, definitely Bowie, yes.
Bowie or Bowie?
Bowie.
Bowie.
But that's not what the Jim Bowie was called, or Jim Bowie was called in the Alamo. He was a Bowie.
No, but that's what I'm called, Kath Bowie.
Oh,
She's their own superstar.
You are your own superstar. You are indeed. Well, so we're led to believe, Kath, that there's nobody else like you, or very few people like you, but there is. There is lots of people your age, your stage, doing what you do.
Yes, there's not a lot that streams. Okay, Fortnite, but there's definitely plenty that plays. Any game, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Fortnite. It can be any game.
So Kath, how did you get started in all of this?
Oh, yeah, well, it's 7 years ago, actually. I walked into my teenage grandson's bedroom and just saw him playing what I now know, of course, what I play is Fortnite. And that was the very first week that Epic had released it. And it was just really love at first sight. I just saw this activity on the screen and I thought, oh, that is interesting. I think I like that. Because prior to that, I had been playing other little games with my two grandchildren. I did it, but they never really interested me. And then that was it. And I have been playing it constantly for 7 years.
And Kath, you'd never done anything like it before?
No, never. No, I never even owned a console, a PS4 or an Xbox or anything. I never even actually did that when I started playing it. I just did it on my grandson's PS4 until the following April. That was the September I started.
Yeah.
7 years ago.
What's the aim of Fortnite? Forgive me, I'm not frequented with it, but what is it? Do you kill people?
You eliminate. Eamonn, you don't kill.
Or you eliminate.
We don't use the word kill. There's no blood or nothing. You go into this bus, usually about 100 of you, from the lobby. You go into the bus, right, and then you choose a place to exit the bus onto the actual area that you want to go, right? It's a big island with different points of interest and so on. You actually land on that, and then you pick up guns and whatever it is that you want. Then you can try and go and eliminate the enemy.
Oh, it sounds good.
You win.
How easy was it for you, Kath, to pick up? Because it's quite complicated, isn't it? I've tried on this console. It's actually quite difficult to get a hand of. Obviously, you've done a great job.
Yeah, but when I started Fortnite, it was never nearly so complicated as it is now. It was very, very basic, actually, when I started. So it was just a case of like muscle memory, you know, getting your brain accustomed to actually, you know, all the sticks and that you move on your console. Or if somebody's on a computer. I don't play on a computer. I play on a PS5. That's just what I'm comfortable with.
Kath, I was going to ask you about your setup there, because you look like you're in a proper gaming chair. You're in your nice T-shirt there. I mean, what's the setup like?
Setup now is fantastic, right? I have to say this, please. It is because of IKEA came a few weeks ago and actually gave me a complete gaming room. It is because they asked me to be the UK face of IKEA's brand ball gaming furniture. So they've set it all up for me. But I mean, that didn't stop my gaming before, but now, of course, it is just absolutely fantastic. I've everything in the furniture way, and I've already had a PS5, monitors, and a computer. So I've got everything.
How long a day? How much time during the day does this fill up for you?
Or just evenings with the odd afternoon. Just about 5 hours, maybe a 6.
5 hours?
5 hours?
Yeah,
Should you not be down at the local old age pensioners club dancing to Roll Like the Barrels or something? Is that not what you should be doing?
Eamonn, do I look the type that would enjoy that?
What about the bingo, Kath?
No. I have to. I like to go on, get my game started, get my stream started, and then that is the community. I don't really need to go outside in my house to get folk to talk to. I just have a fantastic community. Hundreds pass through my stream in the course of a night.
And then I presume you play with other people down the line.
Yes.
Are they mostly younger people?
No. But there are very few 70+ years. I actually don't play with anybody of my age. But when I started streaming, Eamonn, I did it because I didn't like random squad. You know, you're in a squad.
Yeah.
Okay. I did get a little bit of toxicity, and I decided that I would start my own stream and get my own community going. And I play with folk from America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada.
And do you ever keep in touch with any of these people? I mean, outside, when you're not on for 5 hours, do you ever have a conversation with any of them?
I've got a Discord channel, right? And we go on there, we chat constantly. I play with a few of them off the stream. We meet up and we play. I'm great friends with a lot of them. And I would say maybe their average age would maybe be about 40-ish.
And Kath, what do your family think? What do your grandkids think? They must think you're so cool.
No. When I suggested I would start streaming to my grandson, my granddaughter, who's now 22, she's just not interested actually in gaming. But my grandson obviously has been. But when I said I thought I would start streaming, he was aghast at that. Oh, you can't do that. Nobody will watch you and nobody would follow you.
Yeah.
So, of course, the minute he said that to me, I thought, yeah, I will.
I'll show you. Yeah.
Yeah. And now he barely mentions it.
Is there a danger that you're going to use the A word? Is there a danger that you're addicted?
No, Eamonn, I feel really in control with my life. In fact, I'm an absolute control freak, really. And except when I go on and play, and then it's sheer chaos on my stream. And that is what people like when I'm playing. You have no idea the fun we have. We never stop laughing, actually. And all my videos are there for after I have finished a whole stream for folk to come and see it. And Eamonn, the one thing that I do really stress is we are a very friendly,
I can see that.
Community.
Yeah, I can see you are very friendly. Yeah. And so could you take? I'm very friendly too. I mean, could you take me under your wing and sort of introduce me to it? I know nothing. I've never done it. I've never done it before.
Head up to Kath. She'll teach you. She's got a good setup.
Yeah. Time. Yes, of course. We would show you what to do.
We could become friends.
Yes, we could, Eamonn. There was nothing I would like more. I think that would be fantastic.
There you are.
There you are.
There you are.
Nothing she would
And
like
you.
more.
Exactly.
Nothing. Oh, Kath, it's lovely. It's lovely talking to you. And Kath, it's so amazing talking to someone who is overage, who's a pensioner, and who's not sitting there doing knitting or whatever. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much for this opportunity. Okay.
Oh, Kath.
Thank you for talking to us.
Oh, it's been so lovely to chat to you, Kath. Thank you so much, and enjoy the gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I always do. Never had a bad game.
Aww.
And were you related to David Bowie?
No, I don't think so. Eamonn.
She's
I
her
don't
own
think so.
superstar, remember?
Yeah. And anyway, actually, Bowie is my married name. It wasn't
What's your
Matt,
married
so
name? And
Bowie is my married name. So
is your husband still around, or has he passed on?
Oh, yeah, no. My husband is 79, 80 next year and fully supports me. In fact, actually, can I give him a little wave? He's probably... Well, in fact, can I give all my community, because there will be a lot of them watching me just now.
Fascinating talking to you. Lovely talking to you. And when are you playing today, or who are you playing? Or when?
Oh, yeah, no, I'll be on 7 p.m. I always say UK time because there's so many people that actually watch me that have got a different time zone and so on, right? And so 7 p.m. just about every night. I'll take an odd night off. And tonight I will probably finish about 11:30, 12-ish, because I then go and what we call do a raid. That's where I take my community into another community, into a great friend I have over in Texas. Him and his partner support me, help me. So I raid him and support and help him. His name is Kurt. And then I will go and I'm off stream then, okay? I'll then go and play with him till about maybe 1:30 1.
Oh, it's a late night for you, Kath.
My night sounds very dull compared to yours, Kath. But anyway, love, we must go. But lovely talking to you, and be good.
Yeah, thank you and your team.
Thanks,
okay.
Kath.
Bye-bye.
Bye. What a
Bye-bye.
legend.
Oh, incredible.
She's great, isn't she?
Yes.
I feel like we have a new best friend.
Well, you know, I do think older people and loneliness is an awful thing, but Kath's not lonely.
Kath's not alone.
She's not lonely there. That's good, doing that. That's
Brilliant
very
stuff.
good.
You'll love that as well, gbnews.com/you'll say. Let us know what you think about Kath. We're talking about gaming. Should we talk about some sports next? Paul Coyte's going to be here.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Tyne and Wear, the Cradlewell bypass is closed each way between Heaton and Jesmond after an accident. The A1M in County Durham is partly blocked northbound at junction 62 at Carville, with queues from junction 61 at Boban. In Nottingham, Lower Parliament Street's closed after an accident. In Powys, the A470 is closed each way between Glantoymin and Cathus for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and McCunliffe. On the M40 in Oxfordshire, 2 lanes are closed northbound at junction 6 at Watlington after an accident, with queues from junction 5 at Stokenchurch. In London, the A312 Mandeville Road's closed northbound by Northolt Station after an accident, with queues back past the A40 Target roundabout. And in Devon, the A361 is closed eastbound from Rackenford into Tiverton after a lorry overturned and shed its load. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets And my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So let me get this straight. Ryder Cup, right? So
Yes.
It's going to be held in America next time?
Yeah.
Right.
Bethpage Black in New York.
Right. And if you want to be crowd control or you want to work there,
Yeah.
how much do you get paid?
Well, the thing is, it's like in the Olympics, they have the games makers, don't they? So usually do it for free because of the love of the game.
But
they're actually charging the volunteers.
Well, they get money.
They're charging the volunteers to go and work at the Ryder Cup. They're charging 750 quid a day if you want to go and watch it. So they're making loads of money. And if you want to go and work, so this is going to be everything from crowd control, working in concessions, whatever. The fact that you are going to be working there, no, you don't get paid. No, you don't do it for free. You will have to pay $392 for the honour of working at the Ryder Cup. But, Eamonn, the good news is they provide you with a uniform, a drawstring bag, a commemorative pin,
yes,
and food. But don't get me wrong, that's only when you're working. It'll cost you $392. Isn't that outrageous?
It's a strange fee, though, isn't it? It's not like 4 days at $100 each or anything.
I know, $392.
Yeah.
That's it. That's probably how they've worked it out. But so they're actually going to make money from the volunteers, and there probably will be plenty of people that are so desperate to be there, but they're not going to be able to watch the golf because they're going to have to work.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
yeah.
do get a lovely uniform and a commemorative pin to wear.
There you go.
What do you think? You fancy it?
No.
OK.
No, I don't.
I just want to make it clear now so I don't apply.
I don't believe in working for anybody free. TV does a lot of that. They say, oh, we'll give you placement and you can get the experience of it.
Can you imagine the
You're not getting
exposure?
paid for 6 months, but anyway.
Yeah.
I do genuinely believe I'm a very good
Were you in on my contract meeting? Were you there? Is that what's
I'm happy to be, but a fair day's pay for a fair day's work is all I would be asking for.
Right, let's talk about David James. Now,
Let's talk about David James.
You know what? It's interesting you should see that because we were talking about Salt and Pepper earlier.
Yeah.
And Salt and Pepper, there's the two players that play for you, Salt and Pepper, and they sang Let's Talk About Sex Baby, and that's the song you're singing.
Spooky.
My goodness me.
So David James gets all dolled up.
Yes,
he looks
he
fighting
does, dolled up, yeah.
Yes, he's
looks
looking,
$1 million.
Yeah, but no belly, nothing on him. You know, he looks his playing weight.
He does, yeah. He's
right?
still, yeah.
So he's in goal and he's up against who?
Well, what he does at half-time is an 11-year-old. So what they do is that often, and I've hosted quite a few in my day, I'm sure you've been involved in a few.
Once in a lifetime experience for him.
Yeah, for an 11-year-old to actually take a penalty in front of the cop at Liverpool. David James is in goal. Now, if you were in goal...
Yes.
Would you let the kid score?
I might save the first one, but definitely let the kid score after.
OK, but the thing is also you've got to make it look as if you dive because you don't want to go, oh, like that,
Yeah.
and it's pointless. This is what happened. Have a look at this. This is what happened on Saturday. David James in goal. So the kid there, he takes the first one, David James saves it. David James, out of the goodness of his own heart, says, here you go, son, have another one. And then he saves that one as well.
He can't help himself.
He can't help
it. It's in his blood.
That's professional sports people, though. I've known them before, where they just have to win at all costs, even against an 11-year-old.
Oh, that's mean.
So there you go. But do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
No.
The child has learnt something, Eamonn.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I would have done that to my kids.
Would you?
What, would you not have let them scored?
I'd have let someone else kid score, but I wouldn't have let mine score.
Oh, really? Is that right? Yeah, I understand that. But the thing is, I would let them score, but I'd make it look as if I was trying to save it.
Okay.
I think it's mean.
We make it look as if we're talking to you, but we're not, so...
Oh, well, you're not?
No, you're done.
Okay.
You're done. Thank you very much indeed for today. Same time, same
it's
place
been a
tomorrow.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow.
That's equivalent to me saving your penalty shot, that is. We're back with the papers after this.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's at the Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
We shouldn't have to do this, Rebecca. These men should have been compensated long ago.
They shouldn't have to fight for recognition. And this is what's happened over the last 72 years. So all the way through from the test through to the present day, they've known that something happened to them. They've seen what they've been through, their medical conditions, the fact that many of these servicemen died well before their time. And they were ignored in a way that other countries didn't ignore their similar testing veterans. So other nuclear powers across the world, the US, for example, compensated and recognised their nuclear testing veterans many, many years ago. Yet, unfortunately, successive governments in the UK failed to do that. After the long campaign for medallic recognition, finally, these servicemen received medallic recognition, but it came in a jiffy bag in the post, which is not the way to honour the service that these men gave to our country. There needs to be an understanding and an uncovering of the truth of what they actually went through. They've been fighting for many years for access to their medical records, for example, urine and blood tests that they know were taken during their service. But when many of these families have tried to access their records, these test results seem to be missing, and there's no explanation as to why this has happened.
What basis does the Ministry of Defence say it's not our responsibility?
Well, we know from other studies across the world and subsequent studies, it showed, staggeringly, that these men were exposed to the same amount of radiation as clean-up workers at Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Claire Muldoon and John Oxley, and they've got stuff that you'll want to talk about, that you've got an opinion about. And you see, if I sit down and watch a film, right, I'll watch a film and say, this is really good, I'll stay with this, or I'll pause it and I'll come back tomorrow night and I'll pick up from there.
Mm-hmm.
What I wouldn't do is spin through to the end. But that's the in thing to do, Claire.
Look, the Star have picked this up, and it's a great article, actually, because they are framing it and they're pinning it to the fact that Halloween is next week. And they're saying that Gen Zers, in particular, that the ages of 18 to 24 or 25, on the cusp of, are actually frightened by scary movies, so they will watch them during the day. But moreover, Ellie, what they will do is, instead of watching it in its entirety on one block or pausing it and then go back to it, they'll be sitting there like this. What's going to happen at the end? Oh, yeah, that's what happens at the end. And then that's it, done. And now when writers are producing treatments for TV shows and, like, movies, they need to inbuild the fact that attention spans just aren't there anymore. So all the loops and all the hooks have to be built in. They have to be timed in a production. That to me is just an absolute anathema. You look at all the great films, the westerns, and all the Schindler's List for one that's been on recently as well. These films are brilliant films.
Masterpieces.
You would never ever have thought of, because you couldn't have they didn't even have the technology then, of pausing it. And yet we remember those films. I watched something the other night. Well, what I did watch was Jilly Cooper's Rivals, and it's brilliant. Really? Brilliant. But again, that's so punchy, and you can see the way that it's been delivered purely for that.
People just don't have the patience, do they, anymore?
No, and even quite recently, you had things like Mad Men, which were these big, slow-moving series that you'd watch sort of 20 hours of over 3 months or whatever it was.
And The Wire.
And The Wire. And now sort of everything is just designed to be watched sort of back to back without really paying attention to it.
Quickly.
Okay, but where that argument falls down is that you look at a lot of these streaming channels and they have adverts built into them. So how can TV channels sell these slots with adverts in them if they know nobody's watching them? And then the other thing is that when you get to a channel that you can spin through the adverts, great. But then, like things like ITVX, you can't.
You need to pay for if you want.
Yeah, which I'd rot in hell rather than pay for that. So the idea is you've got to stick with those ads. You've got to watch them.
Yeah, but then when they're coming up, they give you the time frame, and then you go and pop the kettle on, like you used to do for the proper adverts. So in the event, you don't actually watch it.
Yeah.
But our viewing habits have changed so dramatically, and I think with this article here about the generation of spoiler brats, it's going to change even more. It's like not being able to read a book, about going straight to the back and not actually fulfilling it.
But it's enjoyment. What do they get enjoyment from?
Exactly.
They can achieve something, but it's not enjoyment. We talk about listening tastes and viewing tastes, and in W.H. Smith, we're going back to the future.
Yes, so this W.H. Smith are starting to sell vinyl records and LPs again, which sort of follows this longer-running trend of vinyl being back. And I think that's really interesting because, everyone has Spotify or whatever service on tap for listening to music.
Yeah.
But people are actually missing the physical thing. Particularly there's a lot of special editions.
It's the crackle, isn't it?
But also,
you just can't get it.
Also, I think there is an element of it's actually being able to show off your music collection. That's the other thing, that that's something that matters to your identity. And it used to be you'd have CDs or whatever. With Spotify, you don't really have that in the same way. So actually having something in your flat that people can look at, sort of shows who you are a bit.
It's the same with books, isn't it? Because, you can get a Kindle, but nobody would have an idea about your expansive collection or what you like to read if it's all on the
Years
Kindle.
ago, when I used to commute more regularly than I'm doing now on tubes, you used to be able to know what was on trend for reading, because everyone, there was Captain Corelli's Mandolin, Bridget Jones's Diary. Now everyone's got a Kindle. You don't have a clue what they're reading. So I've gone back to books. I whip out my book.
I really enjoy having a book. I like seeing it and the wear and tear. If you really enjoyed a book, you can tell just by looking at it. I think it's
maybe
a
that's
great
a
loss
sign
to
of
go
class
to.
then.
Maybe we're
that's
just really
the new
classy.
designer then for class.
Yeah, well, you need enough space to keep the books.
When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I was in demand as a DJ, right? I didn't want to be a general interest in being a DJ, but you just kept getting booked to be a DJ. Turn up at our new nightclub. In the 80s, they just opened a lot of nightclubs, and they would have things like Radio 1 DJs or PH3 girls or,
Was Lavery's there, open then?
Lavery's was open then. And this was just in Northern Ireland we're talking about. So these were great. And I would do 3 gigs a night or so.
Would you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a tough shift.
Steelers wheels, eh?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is I had phenomenal amount of records in boxes and all classified in different ways. Haven't got them anymore.
Where have you put those?
What I'd give for those now.
They'd be worth a fortune.
Yes, I agree with you.
How did you arrange them? By genre
By the
or
rivers
alphabet?
of Babylon. That's what they used to dance to in those days.
Really? Is that what got them up?
Yeah.
Really?
I tell you what got people up on the floor. Katrina and the Waves.
Oh, yeah.
Walking on Sunshine.
That's a classic.
That would work very well. And Lulu and who'd you sing that with? Shout with. You should do that with.
She did it by herself.
No, she did a partnership with somebody.
Hang on.
Anyway, but it was way. I want to shout. Very good.
Have you met her?
Lulu, lovely, legend.
She nice?
Legend. Yes, she is nice. She's lovely. Yeah, what a talent as well. Guys, thanks very much indeed. Thanks for a little entertainment rundown there. Much appreciated.
That was lovely. Right, should we have a look at the weather now with Aidan McGibbon? So it was a bit stormy at the weekend, wasn't it? A little bit rainy, but we could be set to have a bit of a sunshiny week. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Let's have a look at the details.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Some cloud and rain around this morning, but it is going to turn brighter with a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers by the afternoon. The best of the sunshine this morning, East Anglia in the southeast. Likewise, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England seeing some breaks in the cloud. But an area of rain is moving east. That's going to break up by the afternoon into showers, and these showers will be scattered, hit and miss. Most frequent towards the south as well as the far northwest. In between, some decent sunny spells and with light to moderate winds, feeling pleasant enough, highs of 15 to 17 Celsius. Any showers that do form tend to fade away into the evening, and so it's a lovely end to the day for Scotland, particularly across northern and eastern parts, with the wind also easing and any showers becoming few and far between. Northern Ireland, some patchy cloud about, otherwise largely dry. Barely a cloud in the sky for parts of Northern England and North Wales, but always a chance of a shower in the far southeast. They'll tend to move away by after dark, and then overnight with lengthy clear spells, especially for the southern half of the UK, and with a light wind. Temperatures will fall away with some dense mist and fog patches forming by dawn, and lows of, well, mid-single figures in some sheltered spots, otherwise 9 to 12 Celsius. Cloudier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland, with some showery rain, particularly towards the far northwest. But it's across central and southern parts of the country where we'll see that dense fog first thing. Could be some issues on the roads, but the fog will lift into patchy cloud. And again, it's a day of scattered showers. The showers once more most frequent towards southern parts as well as the far northwest. A lot of cloud building as the day progresses, but feeling pleasant enough with highs of 16 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Tyne and Wear, the Cradlewell bypass is closed each way between Heaton and Jesmond after an accident. The A1M in County Durham's partly blocked northbound at junction 62 at Carville, taking nearly half an hour in queues from junction 61 at Boban. In Nottingham, Lower Parliament Street's closed because of an accident. In Powys, the A470 is closed each way between Gladtoymin and Cassoos for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and McCunliffe. On the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound, where a van's broken down at junction 10, the Walsall-Wolverhampton turn, causing delays. On the M40 in Oxfordshire, 2 lanes are closed northbound at junction 6 at Watlington after an accident, with queues from junction 5 at Stokenchurch. The M2 in Kent is partly blocked eastbound by an accident between junctions 5 and 6 from Sittingbourne to Faversham. And in Devon, the A361 is closed eastbound from Rackenford into Tiverton after a lorry overturned and shed its load.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is the
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good
Hello
morning.
there.
Over 1,000 prisoners to be freed today.
The early release scheme rolls on. As the Justice Secretary says, criminals could serve their sentences from home.
An independent review into the prison system is launched, with the government pledging to end the chaos and overcrowding.
Thousands of Australians have greeted the King and Queen as they wrap up their Australian tour at the Sydney Opera House. We'll be there live. Cameron Walker with the latest.
The grand finale of the King and Queen's 6-day tour of Australia, ending with a magnificent flypast over the Sydney Harbour Bridge behind me. Full details shortly.
The firearms officer who shot and killed Chris Kaba while on duty is found not guilty of murder. But some asking this morning, why was he ever even charged?
1 dead, 15 injured after 2 trains collide in Wales overnight.
Protect our pies. A Conservative MP is on a mission to get protected status for traditional pie and mash.
Following a stormy weekend, a settled spell coming up for most of us, although still the odd shower around during the next couple of days. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
1 minute past 9. A very good morning to you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Loads of you getting in touch today on prisons. I'm going to have to share with you, Eamonn. I've lost mine. Yeah, I'll share with you.
Pie and mash. Pie and mash. We're talking about the protected status of British pies. And Steve says, as a Cockney, I've only tried pie mash and liquor once. When a mate took me to a shop, I didn't like it at all.
Oh, no.
You can't beat a proper pie. And he said, well, that is a proper pie, isn't
It's proper comfort food, I've heard.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out a bit more.
I haven't tried it. Don't know anything about the liquor.
We have to go try it.
Business in it.
On the prisoners' release scheme, early release scheme that's going on today, Lee says, I can't believe that Keir Starmer is sending prisoners to serve their sentences from home. What about the ones that come out and are homeless?
Yeah. Who pays for them? Who pays for these prisoners to serve sentences at home if they cannot work, says Sarah. And Nick says, the government isn't affected by criminals. They live behind a firewall of security. It is normal people that are going to be affected by criminals being released and into their own communities.
And Henry says, I believe it would be more productive for released prisoners to be put into work, doing tasks such as cleaning the streets and removing graffiti. There are many activities available to keep them busy and out of trouble.
Absolutely right. And
That's not a bad idea.
Everybody wins.
Everybody
because
wins.
You get rid of litter, you get rid of graffiti, which is a terrible blight on society. One of the things you do is lock up that Egypt, what's his name? He's that one that does all the painting on the walls. Banksy. He should be locked up because he just encourages people
to go out and do... quite good.
What?
I think it's quite good.
I wouldn't want him to paint on my wall.
Yeah, I could do it on my wall. It's fine.
No.
That's what I mean, divides opinion.
No.
Be worth a fortune, Eamonn.
No, he's made it acceptable to deface things. I don't think so. I don't agree.
I think he's quite good.
Well, you can live in a grotty neighbourhood if you want, but I don't want to. Over 1,000 inmates are going to be released today, and this is happening because the government's pressing on with early prison release scheme, which basically means they can't afford to keep any prisoners in jail. They haven't got the money anymore. They haven't got the staff. They can't pay for either, so they're letting everybody out, OK? So let's now go to Mark White this morning. And the idea, Mark, is that this will ease overcrowding in jails. You're outside Wormwood Scrubs. What's the situation there, my friend?
Well, certainly the hope is that it will help. No sign of Banksy, not that I would know what he looks like, but there will be, we're told, a few inmates here from this Category B prison released during the course of the day. Across the country, it will be 1,100 inmates who've been released, and these are inmates who are serving sentences of 5 years or more, having reached 40% of their prison term. It was previously the case that, of course, you would have to spend 50% of your time in prison before you were eligible for release on licence then. Now, in order to try to relieve this overcrowding, it's been reduced to 40%, but there was a great deal of concern in September when 1,700 inmates were released at a time where the probation service and some of the wraparound services were not fully up to speed and able to deal with all of the 1,700 who were out. There are reports that a number of those who were released went on to reoffend. That's no surprise, given that at least a quarter of those who are released from prison go on to reoffend statistically within a year. And it's true that 80% of offenders are reoffenders. 90% of those in prison are reoffenders. It's this recidivism rate that the government really needs to tackle, this cycle of people committing offences and then eventually being jailed, coming out and doing the same thing all over again.
Right, there will be an air of nervousness from people who are watching it and listening to this report this morning. Do you think lessons have been learned from last month's early releases where, you know, that because it happened all so quickly, there were a number of people who weren't supposed to be released that were then released, a number of people allegedly committing crimes on the day that they were released? I mean, people don't want to see the same things happen again. They want to feel safe on the streets.
Well, yes, no, you're right, and we're told that lessons have been learned, but the fact is, just like the prison service, the probation service is on its knees. It is absolutely struggling to cope with the demand it has at the moment without a further 1,100, this time 1,700 the last time, extra prisoners coming to them earlier than they would expect to have to deal with them. And that's the difficulty when you've got a probation service that is very, very stretched as it is, trying to keep a proper eye on those individuals that have been released, trying to ensure that they adhere to all of the guidelines and the sort of rehabilitation programs that they might be under an obligation to attend is extremely difficult for those overstretched probation officers to do. So that's where the real concern lies, that many of those who are being released could just fall into that habit of reoffending again. You know, there are those as a cohort of people who say that prison doesn't work, but there are many who say that prison does work. And if you speak to members of the police service, for instance, they will tell you that in communities, any time a prolific burglar, for instance, is banged up for a year or whatever it might be, then the reoffending in that community, in the area where that burglar was prolific, just completely almost disappears in that area until, of course, that person is released again, goes on to reoffend and is sentenced to a term in prison again. It's this perpetual cycle that the government doesn't yet have an answer to.
Mark, thank you very much indeed for the update. Your views, your opinions, always very, very welcome. We're here to stir things up a bit, throw it out to you, hear what you have to say, and we will run what is called the poll of the day. This is the second day of this, and today the big question is...
Do you feel safe on Britain's streets as 1,100 prisoners are released early? Well, the live results so far are on the screen now. Currently, 2% of you say yes, you feel safe. 97% of you say no. 1 are undefined.
And that's an amazing twist in that polling result, because it was 97 against 1%, now it's up to 2%. So there you are. Final result will be announced by Martin Dobney this afternoon on his show. But for our latest poll news, how to vote and whatever, what do you do?
Go to gbnews.com/poll.
OK. Now, the King and Queen, they're down under in Sydney, and today they were at the iconic Sydney Opera House. It's been amazing. So it's 9:10 with us, or coming up to 9:10. So that means it's either 8:10 with them in the evening. What is it, 7:10? 10:07, I'm officially told, this evening as the sun goes down, and Cameron Walker will be there very, very shortly to bring you a live report.
Yes, but earlier on he sat down with the Governor of New South Wales to get her reaction to the Royals' visit.
Welcome to Government House, the official residence of the Governor of New South Wales, Margaret Beazley. Now, she was on the tarmac at Sydney Airport for the King and Queen when they touched down in Australia ahead of this 6-day royal visit. And she has granted a rare interview to GB News. It must have been quite a terrible shock for Australians, as it was in the United Kingdom, where we found out that both the King and the Princess of Wales had been diagnosed with a form of cancer. What do you think the impression was of ordinary Australians?
I think it was one of those, to put it almost colloquially, oh my gosh moments. Is this really the case? So, and again, a matter of great concern for the health of both.
And of course, because this trip of the King and Queen to Australia would have been months in the planning, was there ever a moment earlier this year where you thought this trip might not be able to go ahead?
I think that was always the concern as we watched, as His Majesty gradually came out and began to re-engage in his public duties. Also knowing that those public duties, or the number of engagements, were less than what he would usually do, because he is somewhat of a workaholic, I think, like his mother. And also it's a long trip. And of course, His Majesty is still undergoing the cancer treatment. There must undoubtedly have been a lot of discussion and a lot of medical discussions around that for him. And of course, we were watching that very carefully, but we're very pleased that he's here.
Inevitably, the royals have, the royal visit even, has amplified the voice of Republicans. So there appears to be different opinions, doesn't there, across Australia?
There will always be different opinions, just about on any topic. But the Queen has always said, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth always said, it will be a matter for the Australian people, and when that should happen. So it remains a matter for the Australian people. There is, I think it's quite publicly known that there won't be a referendum in this or the next term of this government.
Well, you can watch that full interview with Her Excellency on our YouTube channel.
OK. Let's go to Cameron Walker. He's been covering all the action for us this morning. We're just saying, so it is 7:10 in the evening with you, Cameron.
Yes, it is. It is 12 minutes past 7 here in the evening, so it's almost dinner time. Apologies, a cruise ship has just blocked this beautiful view of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, where just a couple of hours ago a magnificent flypast flew over at the very end of the royal visit, the grand finale, I suppose, of the King and Queen's visit down under, the 6-day tour. At the Sydney Opera House here earlier on, there were around 8,000 people who've been queuing for hours in order to try and get a chance to glimpse the King or the Queen, or even to meet them, and many of them were lucky enough to do so. Lots of them waving Australian flags, some were dressed in Union flags as well, so it was very patriotic, very welcoming to the King and Queen. And obviously there has been some bumps along the road during the 6-day tour, particularly yesterday with Lydia Thorpe and the outburst in the Australian Parliament in Canberra. But earlier on today I was at a community barbecue with the King and Queen, and they were in really good spirits. Lots of different communities being very welcoming to them. They had a go at cooking some sausages on the barbecue. I managed to try one myself. I can guarantee you it was very tasty indeed. We were very, very lucky. And it's glorious Australian weather as well. Earlier on today, the King actually met with Indigenous elders, acknowledging the fact that it was their land for 65,000 years before Britain and others kind of came along. And even then, they were kind of talking about the future and wanting their own sovereignty. But as it stands, you know, there are no plans for a referendum here in Australia. And a vast majority of people who I've spoken to and what I've observed seem to really welcome the King and Queen to Australia. Of course, the first time he has visited this realm as head of state.
Cameron, what are the King and Queen up to now this evening? It's their final night in Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is, and they're staying just across the harbour here at Admiralty House. It's the official residence of the Governor-General of Australia, and to be honest, they're just resting because they still have another couple of days of touring left to do in Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and a short state visit. And of course, we need to be mindful of the fact that the King still has cancer. He's paused his cancer treatment while he is in Australia and Samoa, but doctors are being very mindful that he does need rest periods to make sure he has enough energy to carry out the engagements that he is doing. So he's having a restful evening in private at Admiralty House. No, sorry, at the Australian the Governor General's residence even. And then tomorrow he'll be flying out an official goodbye from the Australian politicians before he flies to Samoa.
OK, Cameron, thank you very much indeed. Are you going to Samoa?
I am indeed, Eamonn, so I'm going to be live on breakfast.
Really?
Not tomorrow because we're flying as well, but Thursday and Friday, yes, I am.
Cameron,
It's a 10-hour flight from Sydney. Who knew? It's very long.
Cameron, you get all of the best gigs. I mean, look at you. I know you've been plagued by the cruise ships this week. They're always sat behind Cameron, blocking the view. But you have had the most incredible time, haven't you? All across Australia, now off to Samoa as well. I mean, it's just the most incredible trip for you to cover.
Yeah, I mean, do you know, sometimes I need to pinch myself, Ellie, because I forget of covering a royal tour where you have to get from A to B to C very quickly and cover the royals, that you're in these most amazing places, and doing lives outside the Sydney Opera House or the Harbour Bridge here is just amazing, and the kind of people you get to meet along the way has just been brilliant. And lots of Australians have been coming up saying how much they love watching GB News. So we are clearly a hit down under as well.
Oh, excellent.
Cameron.
Well, make sure you get a selfie there with the bridge before you go.
Get some good pictures for us. Post us a postcard.
God bless. Bye-bye. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.
Doing a stellar job, Cameron. Thank you.
Well, if you'd like to go on a trip like that...
I'd like to go.
Well,
no one's sending me.
You'd need about 36 grand, which would be a good reason to enter our Great British Giveaway competition. Here it is. Well, up next, we're going to be serving up pie and mash to make it a protected species or something like that. We're going to be talking about that and working up an appetite after this.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, Georgia. Your story is incredible. Just remind us of it. You quit running in, was it 2017? Because I mean, to be quite frank, your body was knackered, you had injuries, you thought you couldn't go on anymore. But then you started running again at Parkrun in 2022. And of course, this summer at the Olympics, you won bronze.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, it has been a bit of a journey. And yeah, there was a period of time where I stopped running completely. And then Parkrun was just something I got into with my friends, my family, just local community. And I started to see the improvements that led me to get back in contact with my old coach and just worked my way back up to elite level running and got a bronze medal this summer in Paris.
Did you ever think that would happen when you were beginning to take part in parkruns again? Did you ever think you'd be winning bronze in the 1500 metres at the Olympics?
No, not at all. It would have been absolutely bonkers, I think, to think that at the time. It was just building my way up, but it was all about finding happiness in running again. And that's really what Parkrun does, I think, really well.
And can you just tell us and the audience what had happened to you in 2017?
So I had been like a good junior athlete. I had gone over to the US on a track scholarship at university, and I just experienced so many different injuries. So various stress fractures in my shins, and I just graduated and just thought there's no way I can run anymore. So took a big break, and then over the past few years I just got back into running slowly, built it up, and Parkrun is just something that is on every Saturday. So many parks across the UK, very accessible, free. So it was just a really good way to get back into a fun but semi-level of competitive running.
The People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Now, the pan mash business, we've got a shop opened in East London serving pan mash. We've also got Adam Cherry. He's there as our political correspondent because there is an MP, Richard Holden. What's Richard Holden trying to do exactly, Adam?
Well, morning, guys. Richard Holden's campaign is to give traditional specialty guaranteed status to pie and mash in the area. It's known as the original fast food in London. And to find out a little bit more, we're here outside Marine's Pie Shop. I'm joined by Jason Patson. Jason, hi, how you doing?
Morning, how are you?
Thanks for joining us on GB News. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, your pie shop, and what's going on? You're opening in about half an hour, aren't you? It's already smelling good.
Yeah, out and about 10 o'clock. Our day normally starts between 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to get the preparation going. And then from there, it's been a family business now for over 50 years, come to 60 years, well, been nearly 60 years now. So it's just something we enjoy doing.
Oh, lovely stuff.
For the community.
So this campaign to give specialty, sort of protected status to pie and mash, what would that actually mean for you? Why would that necessarily be important, do you think?
I suppose it just keeps a bit of the traditional London heritage going, I suppose, now, really. Yeah. I suppose it's just something that's people still appreciating, which is good. Yeah. And that, because now, obviously, now, like a lot of London pie mash also now goes out to Essex, Kent, and things as well. But if there's still original shops in the area, and there's a status like on them, then that's all good.
Yeah. How long have you guys been open?
Oh, this shop here now, I've been in here, I think now coming up about 33 years I've been in this one.
Wow.
I have, yeah. And then my mum started off I think it was late 60s, yeah, on the shop at the front. Years and years ago. Lovely. So, but yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Well, you're open at 10 o'clock. I'm going to pop in. I'm going to have a couple of pies. I'll try and bring some back for you guys.
Okay.
I'll bring a box back.
Don't lose your place in the queue.
Back to you guys. Thanks,
thank you. Good one, Adam. Thank you.
He's counting down the minutes to 10 o'clock. He wants to get in there.
Yeah.
Keith's been in touch saying pie and mash tastes best in old-fashioned cafes. The best one I ever had was in a cafe near Fulham on the way to Chelsea football match. But like everything, the cafe and a whole row of shops have gone and been replaced by soulless structures.
Arthur says, I stick the sausages in the mash because I prefer bangers and mash. So he says he saw this, first of all, in the Beano comic where you have a plate of mashed potato and the sausages to the top. So that's what he does. Fred says, traditionally a minced beef pie and liqueur is a parsley sauce made with the water that the eels were stored in. Yum, yum.
Oh, yum. Or you can use fish stock. And Trevor says, we love pie and mash, although in Durham we call it pie and chips with peas and gravy. Okay. Oh, and maybe another pie as well. Sounds like you. You love the pies, don't you?
Well, I did. It just happened. It was a coincidence, but I had to, yeah.
Well, clearly it's very topical.
Very topical, very topical.
Very
protected
good.
Status, what will that mean?
Yeah.
Right, so just to say, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, 6 through until 9:30. Andrew and Dawn up next with Britain's Newsroom. Have yourselves a good day, whatever you're up to. We'll say bye-bye.
And here's the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Some cloud and rain around this morning, but it is going to turn brighter with a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers by the afternoon. The best of the sunshine this morning, East Anglia in the southeast, likewise Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England seeing some breaks in the cloud. But an area of rain is moving east. That's going to break up by the afternoon into showers, and these showers will be scattered, hit and miss. Most frequent towards the south as well as the far northwest, in between some decent sunny spells and with light to moderate winds, feeling pleasant enough, highs of 15 to 17 Celsius. Any showers that do form tend to fade away into the evening, and so it's a lovely end to the day for Scotland, particularly across northern and eastern parts, with the wind also easing and any showers becoming few and far between. Northern Ireland